Prologue. The sound of feet hitting the ground could be heard as a large mob made its way through the village, hunting the elusive prey that they have been hunting for the past 5 years. For 5 years ago on this day, the demonic entity known to them as the Nine-Tailed Fox had come and tore apart their village in a violent rampage the likes of which no one had ever seen in recent memory. If not for the fourth Hokage's actions that day, many more lives would have been lost, even if his actions brought about his own demise as well as the beast he fought. For the fourth had used the dead demon-consuming seal to seal the fox demon away, but the price he had to pay his own life in return. On that same day, a little blonde baby was born. When the people of this village found out that this baby was born on the same day as the fox's rampage and eventual death, they feared, being the highly superstitious people that they were, that the little blonde baby was the fox reincarnate and thus gave chase to destroy the fox in its weakened form. Of course, when one of the villagers finally found the baby, they hesitated. After all, it looked like any other baby. But the hesitation only lasted a little while, just long enough for the baby to turn over and reveal its whisker like birthmarks. The villager, who happened to be a nurse in the hospital the baby was in at the time, moved forward, surgical scalpel poised to strike a killing blow on the sleeping infant. But just in time, an umbu, one of the elite in the ninja ranks of the village, stopped the descent of the blade and quickly restrained the nurse, taking her away. And that was the life the little baby had lived, constantly fearing that the villagers would finally kill him, suffering numerous beatings and constant names being spat in his direction. Unable to make a single friend, for those that weren't picking on him or beating him up were too scared of him or the punishments that would be given to them if they even so much as walked near him. And all this just got worse on his birthday, which is why we find the little boy being chased around the village by the ever-growing mob that was on his heels. Today is October 10th, and the boy was Naruto Uzumaki. Chapter 1. The Beginning. 2 years later. Once again, Naruto is being chased through the streets of Konoha by the ever-vicious mob of bloodthirsty villagers, on the yearly hunt for the demon. After all, at this time he still didn't know why they did this to him, so he continued to run away, hoping that this year they would give up or get too tired to continue. But like every year, he was the one that couldn't keep running, and they caught him and took turns beating him. Some would lift him up and punch him till they couldn't hold him up anymore, then hand him to the next person, who would throw him at a wall and kick him as hard as they could until they eventually hit the wall by mistake. Then the next person, who happened to be exceptionally strong for a civilian, would throw him into the air and punch his falling form, and if there were ninja in the mob, they would tie him up and put him against the wall for target practice with real kunai and shuriken. And that's how the night would go until he lost consciousness, upon which a group of umbu would arrive and break up the mob, and once the mob was out of sight, the umbu would give a few kicks to the unconscious boy, then leave. A few hours later, Naruto would wake up, with most of his wounds healed, and wonder, while making his way home, if it was truly worth living, if it meant all this pain and suffering. His thoughts would always turn back to these suicidal ones, but there was always something that stopped him from following through with them. Once back to his rundown, not much better than a box on the side of the road, apartment, he found his landlord waiting with an angry look on his face. Once they were level with each other, the man started barking at him. "How many times do I have to tell you to stop tearing your apartment apart?" "What do you mean? I left it in perfect order." The man just snorted at him as if he were lying through his teeth and trying to make life harder for the man. "Yeah, right. You call broken windows, torn up carpet walls heavily layered with graffiti and scratched up, not to mention all the pieces from that TV strewn about, perfect order. Now that's a laugh." His landlord laughed out sarcastically. At this point, Naruto was already making his way to his door, only to see it open for all the world to see. What he saw made his heart drop even further than it already was. Everything was trashed. Nothing was left untouched. The money he had been saving was gone. His clothes were useless stripes of cloth now. And at that moment he fell to his knees, not able to handle it anymore, and let loose a horrendous cry that bounced throughout the village. This kept going until he fainted from everything that had happened. The next day he awoke in the hospital, at which point he was thrown out onto the streets again. And so begins another day. Plastering the stupid grin on his face, as if nothing had happened at all last night, he made his way through the village, where everyone ignored him or shot hate-filled looks his way, the ones with kids telling them not to go near him but not giving a reason why, towards his favorite stand, as well as the only stand that didn't either kick him out or jack their prices up. The stand's name is Ichiraku Ramen. Unfortunately for him, it was closed for the day as both Tucci and Ayam were too sick to work, so he decided to skip breakfast as he no longer had anything to eat at home. So he kept walking, his fake smile still gracing his face, deciding to go to Konoha's library. As he walked, he suddenly felt a stone hit his shoulder and heard someone call out, "Shoulder, 10 points. All right?" Followed shortly by an older voice, "That's my boy, pretty. Soon you'll be the best shot in the village." Hearing this, Naruto just ran, still heading towards his destination. He arrived shortly, after several years of running one can get quite fast, and tried entering the library, only making it to the counter before being hit by a screaming woman with a broom, as if he were a mouse or raccoon she had stumbled upon, and being forced back out. Unable to do any studying for the academy, he decided to just go to his favorite place in Konoha, the top of the Hokage monument. After another run, we find Naruto sitting peacefully on top of the fourth Hokage's head. "There you are, young one. The time has come for your training to begin," a mysterious voice cloaked in black says while staring at Naruto's form, still sitting on the stone head, before flashing through hand seals ending with the snake hand seal. Shortly thereafter, Naruto fell over unconscious. Walking out, the man smiles to himself before quickly scooping Naruto up and vanishing in a shunshin. Naruto found it hard to open his eyes after waking, not wanting to go through another day of misery pretending to be happy. But figuring he had no choice in the matter, he finally did, finding it incredibly odd that he was staring at the roof of a cave rather than either the hospital one or his own apartment. "So you're finally awake," jumping at the unexpected voice, mostly because it didn't have the usual hate, anger, and disdain or fear, but what sounded like kindness. He turned towards the man who had spoken. The man's hair was black with a few gray, almost silver, streaks along the sides of his head. "Who are you? Where am I? Are you going to kill me?" Naruto's rapid-fire fear-filled questions came out, catching the man slightly off guard, but only slightly, not expecting this reaction at all. "I am the spirit that has been training your family for generations. Some call me the Shinigami. But to the Uzumaki family, I am known as Orcus, and you are in a cave under the ancestral village of the clan of Uzumaki." Naruto just stared at him as if he were insane. To be continued. Chapter 2. The Test. The next day, Hokage Tower. "What do you mean you can't find Naruto? He couldn't have gotten that far." Hiruzen Sarutobi could be heard shouting from his office as he got the news of Naruto's disappearance from the captain of his umbu. "I don't know. The umbu I had assigned to watch him at the time state that one moment he was sitting on the fourth's head and the next he had vanished without a trace. It was highly suspicious, so I had their memories analyzed at the interrogation department. They stated that there didn't appear to be anything missing, although they seemed to spend quite a bit of time staring at the spot Naruto was in before acting. Unfortunately, there was no further clues at Naruto's last known location. Given the current evidence, I can only assume that an unknown ninja or ninjas have either abducted him, kidnapped him, or convinced him to abandon Konoha and join them." Sarutobi just sighed in annoyance, then gave the umbu captain his orders. "Send out a team of your best trackers to track them down. Tell them to start at the last place he was confirmed to be. Do whatever it takes, but I want him found." For months later. Good morning, young Uzumaki. The young blonde boy had really bulked up a bit thanks to the aggressive training and care that Orcus gave him over the 4 months since his abduction. No longer the scrawny boy who didn't know how to train properly, thanks to the teachers at the academy who never taught him how to do anything, and couldn't study or learn anything, owing to a combination of the library kicking him out every time he entered the building and those same teachers, and never had a nutritious meal thanks to the various stores and restaurants either refusing service or jacking the prices up, with the exception of Ichiraku Ramen. Now he's eating and training correctly and on his way to being the correct weight and height, and has learned to study properly thanks to proper teaching and access to books and scrolls. Naruto, who was sitting at a table eating a small but healthy breakfast. He was wearing his new ninja attire. Gone was the orange jumpsuit he'd been forced to wear for so long, because the clothing shops wouldn't sell him anything else, which consisted of black shinobi sandals, black pants, with hidden storage seals, made of an unknown material that made no noise when it moved or brushed something, and a black shirt with an orange spiral on the back, made of the same material. There was also a black cloak that looked like it belonged to the Grim Reaper hanging on the back of his chair. "Morning, Orcus, and how many times must I tell you to call me by my name? You know I don't like being called that." Orcus just chuckled a little before speaking again. Yes, so you've told me. Now on to business. Today's the day your aptitude for the elements and special talents is evaluated. Now follow me." Naruto did as told, grabbing his cloak and throwing it over his shoulders along the way. As they walked through the underground tunnels that were spread out under the ruins of Uzushio village, Orcus explained what he meant by special talents after a lot of prodding by Naruto. We will be evaluating what weapon you're best suited for, along with a fighting style with which to wield it with, as well as your aptitude for fuinjutsu and other techniques. Does that satisfy your curiosity, young Uzumaki? For now, I guess he responded, rather put out that he didn't get a more detailed explanation, but happy enough that he finally got to learn something about this mystery test that Orcus had been alluding to for the past 3 months. Upon finishing that thought, they entered a chamber with strange runes engraved on any free surface originating from a circle in the middle of the room. Enter the circle for the test to begin. I shall wait here. It was at this moment that Naruto noticed that Orcus hadn't entered the strange chamber with him, and turned to ask him why. I cannot enter this room. Only those with mortal bodies and the blood of the Uzumaki can enter, Orcus said before Naruto had even opened his mouth to voice his question. He stared at the circle apprehensively, wondering what would happen, and, after taking a few deep breaths to settle down, stepped into it. All at once the runes spread out on the floor. Ceiling and walls glowed with blue light until they were blindingly bright, at which point he started falling down through the floor he was standing on. Then the runes stopped glowing so bright and he found himself inside another tunnel. This one was bound in layer upon layer of ice. Upon looking around, he noticed a strange green glow coming from one direction. The glow felt like it was calling to him. After taking a tentative step towards the glow, he soon found he was running towards it. Taking turn after turn, unsure where he was going, he just kept running as fast as he could, all the while wondering where the glow was taking him. All at once the glow vanished and he found himself in a wide area strewn with rocks and pits of fire, with the wind blowing in his ear, wondering what this was when it started to rain with flashes of lightning falling to earth around him. Okay, this is starting to get a little freaky. What the heck's going on? No sooner had that thought entered his head than a large stone tablet rose out of the ground in front of him with the words earth, fire, wind, water, and lightning. You possess all of these along with the demons which you hold inside you, power. These are the natural elements you're in tune with. Once finished reading, place your hand on the indicated spot. After placing his hand on the indicated spot, the blinding blue light came back. He was falling again. This time, after the light faded and he stopped falling, he found himself surrounded by weapons of all shapes and sizes, and in front of him was a practice dummy with a sign that read "Choose a weapon and try to knock me over." Upon reading this, Naruto went over to one of the piles of weapons and picked up a large hammer and took a swing at the dummy, only for the hammer to shatter on impact. When the dust cleared, he found that the words on the sign had changed. It now read, "A strong man picks the hammer so as to show off, but ultimately that hammer will bring about your downfall. Choose again." And so it went. He'd pick a weapon that he thought would surely knock the dummy over, only for it to shatter and the dummy's sign would change as well. Eventually Naruto needed a breather, and while doing so, he took a closer look at his surroundings. Seeing that all the piles seemed to be organized a particular way, remembering that each weapon he had taken so far had been from the same pile and everything on the dummy's sign had been about strength, he decided to try a different pile. This pile had a bunch of mid-range weapons such as spears, halberds, and pikes. Reaching, and he grabbed one of the spears and went back to the dummy and made a clumsy jab at the dummy. Again the weapon shattered, and again the sign changed, this time reading, "One who cares more for speed and precision chooses the spear, but if you continue down this path you'll die with a blade in your back." How it changed. If the strength and speed/precision piles will get me killed, which pile won't? Now, with an idea of what to look for, started grabbing weapons from different piles, then trying them out, going to one pile, picking a weapon, then trying it out and reading what the sign said before moving to the next pile. This went on for some time. There were a lot of piles, but eventually he found the right pile when he attempted to use a bladed whip. Speed and stamina will keep you alive, but the weapon you chose will only do harm to those around you. After a short victory dance, he went back to the pile that yielded life and started looking through it, trying to find that one weapon that would knock the dummy over. As he sorted, he noticed a green glow coming from one of the weapons. Digging that one out, he found that it was a black katana with a red blade and a black dragon-shaped guard. Taking this and heading to the dummy for hopefully the last time. He took a swing and the dummy flew through the air before all the weapons dissolved into black clouds, with the exception being the one in his hands, and a black and red sheath that seemed perfect for the katana in his hands. After putting his newly acquired katana into the sheath and securing it to his back, he found a door had appeared in the previously doorless wall. Given no other choice, he walked through it and found himself in front of a display case. Inside was a scroll with the words "kenjutsu style, dance of the demonic dragon" printed along it. Upon looking at the keyhole for the case, he found that it looked oddly similar to the hilt of his katana. He decided to try using the hilt of his katana to unlock it. The minute hilt touched lock, the display case turned to dust, leaving the scroll lying on a table. After picking up and pocketing the scroll, he looked around wondering what would happen next. He didn't have to wait long, as pretty soon the blue light was again blinding him, causing him to fall through the floor yet again. This time he found himself standing in a small room with a desk at its center. On the desk was a book with a note that said "Read Me" stuck to the cover. After reading through the book twice, he put it back down on the desk, upon which it turned into a pen and paper with a note beside them saying "Make a sealing scroll and successfully seal the pen into it. Then unseal the pen." You guessed it, the book was on fuinjutsu. Naruto quickly completed the test and was on to the next part and the next and the next. Upon completing the last test, he was again blinded by the blue light. The only difference this time was that instead of falling through the floor, he just collapsed to it in a panting heap. Once he caught his breath, he noticed three things. The first was that he was back in the chamber with all the runes. The second was that he still had the katana and technique scroll. The third was that only a few minutes seemed to go by. What was that? How long was I gone? Orcus, who was still standing right where he had been when Naruto entered the circle, smirked before answering. That was the test I was talking about. It's a kind of seal-based genjutsu that brings you inside your mind and tests you there. And you can relax. You were only out for 2 minutes. Now let's get to the real training. Thus began the year-long training, in which he would learn how to control his elemental chakra and become a master in fuinjutsu and his kenjutsu style. To be continued. Chapter 3. The Return. 1 year later, Hokage's office. On this day you could find the third Hokage working on the ever-present stacks of paperwork. Every so often he would look out the window as if hoping to see someone. He had his top trackers search for Naruto, but none of them could find anything that could point them in the right direction. It was as if he had disappeared off the face of the planet. After a month of search, he had to call off the mission. As, with no clues whatsoever, no one could find him, so he passed the task to an old friend. "Hokage-sama, if you don't get back to work, you'll have to work overtime," again his secretary said from his office door, while holding yet another stack of the dreaded paperwork. "At the rate it's coming in, I won't be able to go home anyway," sighed Sarutobi. After which his secretary plopped the most recent stack beside his desk and left the office. Sarutobi turned to the window again and thought, "Where are you, Naruto?" before turning back to his ever-increasing stack of paperwork and sighing again before getting back to work. Unknown village in the land of fire. Jiraiya was currently sitting in a bar talking with his informant. "You mean to tell me that you can't find anything about him? How is that even possible?" "I don't know. None of my men have seen or heard anything that matches your description of him. I'm sorry, I can't be of more help." The man then left the bar, leaving Jiraiya to sit and stew in his thoughts. That is until the door of the bar opened and closed, and the whole bar went quiet as a small figure in a strange black cloak made its way to the counter, conveniently close to Jiraiya. "We don't serve minors here, kid," the barkeeper told the kid, "so scamper off." "Oh, I'm not here for that. I was told that I could find someone willing to supply me with transport to Konoha." "That true?" the barkeep thought for a minute before shrugging. "I might know someone willing, and I might be willing to tell you for a price." The kid was about to place some coins on the counter when a hand reached out and grabbed his wrist. "Now kid, don't go wasting your money. It just so happens I'm heading that way myself and have already arranged for transport. You can join me if you want." Jiraiya smiled down at the cloaked kid. Never one to let a kid travel alone with no way to protect themselves. "Thanks. When are you leaving?" the kid said as he repocketed his money. "Well, I was just about to head out after this drink. That okay with you?" "Sure, I guess. Just need to tell the inn I'm staying at that I won't need the room after all," as they were already outside the bar by this point. He turned in the direction of said inn with Jiraiya by his side. "So what's your name, kid?" "Not important." "Okay then. Why are you heading to Konoha, then?" Unfinished business. Realizing that the unknown kid wasn't going to tell him anything more, he wisely decided to shut up, for the moment at least, that is. After a short discussion with the people at the inn, in which the kid gave the money he was going to give them for the duration of his stay to the inn in exchange for inconveniencing them by canceling his room reservation, they were back outside and walking towards Jiraiya's transport. "Why'd you give them all that money when you didn't need to, kid?" said Kid. Looked over at him as if he were an idiot and said, "I inconvenienced them, so I gave them the money they would have lost." It's not like it was that much anyway. Not much. Kid, I highly doubt you have enough money to be doing that all the time. No, I'm pretty sure I do. He glared at the kid for a minute before sighing, whatever. It's your life, kid. It didn't take much longer to reach Jiraiya's transportation, which was really just a merchant's cart pulled by a small horse. That's your ride, sighed the disappointed kid. Well, whatever, let's just get going. 2 weeks travel later. Konoha's front gate. They got off the cart, stretching their sore muscles and aching joints, and walked to the guard post to sign in. Oh, Jiraiya, nice seeing you. Any luck finding him? Kotetsu, one of the 2 Chunin stationed there, asked. No, not at all, unfortunately. Hell, well, I better make my report to the Hokage anyway. He sighed, tuning and walking towards the Hokage tower. Oh, didn't see you there, kid. How can we help you? Izumo, the other half of the duo, asked. I'm just a returning citizen, wanting to join the ninja academy, cloaked kid said. All right then, you can head over to the Hokage's tower as well. They'll help you with the registration process. Izumo pointed to a big tower with the kanji for fire on it. The cloaked boy turned and walked after Jiraiya's figure. 30 minutes later, the boy entered the tower. Jiraiya once again at his side, wondering what the kid was doing there before going into the Hokage's office, and walked up to the secretary. I was told that I could register for the ninja academy here. Looking down at the small figure, the receptionist answered, yes, you can. But you'll need the approval of your parent or guardian to do so. As she was talking, she shuffled through a few sheets of paper, finally finding the right form and handing it to the boy. There's the registration form. Anything else I can help you with? I would also like to speak with the Hokage as well. I'll check to see if he's free. Please wait over there for now, she said as she got up. Inside the Hokage's office. I see. So even you were unable to find him, Sarutobi sighed at the news. I tried my best, but none of my contacts could get any info on where he might be or what happened to him. I know, you tried your best and that's all I can ask. You may go now. Just as Jiraiya exited. Via the window, his secretary opened the door. Sir, there's a small boy who would like to see you. Oh, how unusual. Let him in then. A small boy, cloaked in an unusual black cloak, walked in soon after. As soon as the door was shut, the boy lowered his hood, revealing one Naruto Uzumaki, to a very surprised Sarutobi. Hey old man, long time no see. Naruto grinned up at him. Naruto, Sarutobi yelled, surprise and happiness evident in his voice, his yell causing Jiraiya to immediately turn around and come back, through the window of course. You mean to tell me I was traveling with him for the past 2 weeks and didn't even know it? God damn it, kid, you could have said something. I didn't know who you were or if you could be trusted, so I saw no point in telling you anything at the time, pervy sage. I guess that makes sense, and don't call me that. Nope, I won't. Anyway, I would like to join the academy, but as you know, I need parental permission to do so. Can you help me out with this, old man? I've already filled out the form. I just need the permission part taken care of. He passed the form over as he spoke. Jiraiya signed the form for him. It is your responsibility as his godfather after all. At which Naruto turned an icy glare upon the man before turning back to Sarutobi, as Jiraiya signed the form. You're lucky. The academy is just starting a new year, Sarutobi told him, while he put the form in a folder full of forms just like it. When does it start, and where am I staying till I can purchase a place of my own? It starts in a week, and you'll be living in the same place as you were before your disappearance, which I would like to hear about. What happened? Both Sarutobi and Jiraiya were watching him closely now, waiting to hear what he would say. I'm afraid all I can tell you is that it had to do with my clan. Both Sarutobi and Jiraiya face faulted before getting back up. Fine, I know that clan secrets are only for the clan. You're both dismissed, Sarutobi grumbled. Naruto flipped his hood back up before exiting through the door, while Jiraiya went out through the window. Once out of the building, Naruto started walking towards his old apartment, till Jiraiya appeared in front of him, blocking his way. Mind if I tag along? He just glared at the older man. Hell, look, I thought you would want to know why I wasn't around for you or anything like that. He glared a little more before going around him. There's no point in talking about the past. All I want to know is what you plan on doing now. So talk while we walk. Jiraiya turned and followed him. Not sure what you mean. Are you staying here to care for me like you should have done in the first place? Are you going to do something to make it up to me? What do you plan on doing now? I can't stay, I wish I could. But I have to keep up my spy network for the sake of the village. It's the reason why I wasn't able to take care of you before. And the only thing I can do to make it up to you is give you a little training before I go on my next trip. Very well. Give me what training you can. They reached their destination as he finished talking, finding the door wide open and the house completely trashed. Oh right, I forgot that it was trashed before I left. Oh well, Naruto shrugged and went into his partially destroyed apartment. Let's see. He fished out a piece of paper out of his bag that he had since the start of his journey back to Konoha and placed it in the middle of the floor. Immediately after placing the paper, after jumping back to the doorway, everything in the room started to fly through the air. Anything that was broken or damaged started to repair itself and settle back on the ground, where it had been before being broken, likewise the carpet, which had been beyond repair. Counters, which were badly chipped and broken in places, and the walls, which were heavily laden with graffiti and scratches, repaired themselves as well. Once everything was settled on the ground and repaired to its original state, Naruto walked back over to the paper and picked it up. What the heck was that? Jiraiya was shocked at what he had just witnessed. He had never seen anything that could do something like that before. It's called a seal made using fuinjutsu. It's not like it's magic or anything. Kid, I'm a master in the art of fuinjutsu. Believe me when I say that was not fuinjutsu, to which Naruto burst out laughing at the old man. Then you're not a true master of fuinjutsu, just a novice who's only skimmed the top of what real fuinjutsu can do. And what would you know about fuinjutsu, scoffed Jiraiya. I'm an Uzumaki, a clan that specialized in sealing. Why wouldn't I know a lot about it? Okay, so how does the seal you just used work? It works by using the inherent energy within inanimate objects and the inherent memories in the air to repair or recreate objects that were damaged. When I say recreate, I don't mean that objects appear out of thin air, but that an object that is already present but heavily damaged and missing pieces reforms the missing pieces and repairs itself with them. This is done by using the inherent energy of the object. Then, once the object is repaired, using the inherent memories of the air, it sets down right where it was before it was broken, although it doesn't work on organic materials. There you go. Happy Naruto smirked at the stunned Jiraiya, who had his mouth hanging open. I told you there was more to it, sighed Naruto before going to his kitchen and dumping everything into garbage bags and going through his cupboards, getting rid of anything with an expiry date, since it's been long enough that it'll no longer be good. Jiraiya just stood there, too stunned to move. You can go now. I have a lot to do here before I can relax. 2 hours later. Okay, that takes care of the security and the groceries. No one's gonna break in and mess the place up now. Naruto smiled to himself. Now I just need some new gear. I only have my katana and fuinjutsu stuff right now. Better make a list to make sure I don't forget anything. Grabbing a sheet of paper, he started writing. 100 yards of ninja wire. 1 barrel of kunai and 1 barrel of shuriken. New mission outfit X10. New clothing X10. 40 windmill shuriken. Smoke, chili and flash bombs, 5 full pouches each. 1 pouch of makibishi. Spiky things a ninja will throw down to slow an enemy or target, for those that don't know. Finished writing up the list, he set out. 30 minutes later. Naruto is now in front of a ninja tool shop by the name of the Iron Claw and entered after a short pause. Welcome to the Iron Claw, how may I help you? Looking at the counter, he could see a girl around his age. Her brown hair done up in buns, dressed in a Chinese clothing. Can I speak to an employee, please? That's okay, my dad lets me take orders for him so he can work on more orders all the time. Now what can I do for you? Well, okay then, nervous about whether it was really okay. He handed her the list and waited for her to respond. Okay, if this is all you need, then I can get it all for you now. Is there anything else I can help you with before I go get the items in question? Actually, there is something else you can do, maybe, he said before taking out a scroll. Once he unsealed his sword, he turned to see the girl with stars in her eyes. Are you okay? What kind of sword is that? Does it channel chakra? Does it have a special name? If so, what is it? Do you know who made it? Is it yours? Can I hold it? Naruto just blinked under the rapid fire of questions. Right, let's see. It's a katana, yes, yes, it's sure no Ryu, no it was made a long time ago in a forgotten age, yes it is mine and no you can't. Now are you done? She pouted a little before answering him. Just one more, does it have any special abilities? She looked expectantly at him. Yes, and before you ask I'm not going to tell you what they are. Now are you ready to listen? She nodded, though a little put out about not hearing everything about the sword. Good. I want you to get your father, I need to ask him if he can do something or not. I already told you I can take orders and answer your questions. What, you don't believe me? Oh, it's not that, the question just has to do with his skill and I highly doubt that you… It's 10-10. Well, I highly doubt that you, 10-10, know his exact skill range and set. At this he gave her a look that clearly said, isn't that right? Fine, I'll go get him. I'll be right back. After 10-10 left to get her father, Naruto unsheathed his sword and started examining the blade. After a few minutes 10-10 came back with her father, who seemed to blink a few times before speaking. Aren't you a little young to be buying anything in this shop? I'm gonna be starting in the ninja academy and wanted to get the proper supplies early. His answer gave the man enough time to register the sword. Not that it didn't take 10-10 more than a second as she was already reaching to touch it. Wah! 10-10 yelped, flying through the air after getting zapped by black lightning, which seemed to be in the shape of a dragon. 10-10? Her father yelled as he rushed over to her. Are you okay, honey? Why'd you attack her like that? The last part was directed at Naruto himself. I didn't, the sure no Ryu did. You can relax, she'll wake up in a minute, it was just sure no Ryu way of saying back off, a warning shot if you will. Honestly, I told her that she couldn't touch him and she tries to anyway, sighed Naruto, after finishing. Are you sure? 10-10's father had a very stern look on his face as he spoke. Of course, Naruto said as he resheathed sure no Ryu. What hit me? 10-10 said as she rose from the ground holding her head. See, perfectly fine, he said to the concerned father, who promptly ignored him. How do you feel, 10-10? Is everything still working right? Yeah, I feel perfectly fine. What happened though? The last thing I remember is trying to touch that awesome-looking katana. Then, nothing. You were zapped by sure no Ryu. Because you did not match any of the requirements needed in order to touch him. He was just warning you, Naruto answered. That is so cool. 10-10 was back on her feet, stars back in her eyes, and gushing over the fact that the sword zapped her. Anyway, back to business. Have you ever dealt with sentient swords? Naruto asked, turning to the man. Not since I was an apprentice, at least until my master died in the Third Shinobi World War. I never got to learn how to. Okay then, Naruto said, resealing his katana. Then I'll just take the items I requested. I believe I have more than enough to pay for it all. Alright, I'll go get it now, a deflated 10-10 stated before heading into the back, returning a few minutes later with all the items he asked for on a trolley. Here you go, that'll be 6,700 Ryu. After paying and sealing the equipment away, he left in search of a clothing store that, like the ninja tool shop, wouldn't rip him off and would have a decent selection. Finding what he was looking for in a shop called Weave of Steel, and upon entering he started to look around. How are you finding everything, sir? Is there anything I can help you with? Naruto thought for a minute before turning to respond. Do you do custom orders? It's just that I like how everything is made, but I'm not finding anything I like, he asked, not wanting to be rude. In that case you'll want Yukari. Just head to the back and she's at the custom orders desk. Okay, thank you for the assistance. It only took a few minutes to get to the back and find the appropriate desk. How can I help you, kid? Lose your parents? An old lady, who must be Yukari, behind the desk said in a gruff and slightly irritated voice. Hard to lose what you never had in the first place, don't you think? Naruto responded in an overly happy voice. I would like to get something custom made. I guess you're right there, kid. Any particular style you want or colors or anything like that. And I hope you can pay for it. It's not exactly cheap, Yukari responded, still in a gruff voice, though it had lost the irritation that was in it before. I need 20 outfits total, 10 made for ninja missions tailored to different environments, preferably in black, and 10 for around the village but capable of handling a fight, done in various colors that blend in. All made of this material. he said, showing her a spare shirt he had brought with him. As for the style, could you make it similar to what I'm wearing? Okay, I'll need to take a closer look at what you're wearing, but it'll be no problem. Now I just need your measurements. Please step inside so I can take those and I'll take a look at your clothes then. She indicated towards the curtain-off area behind the counter. After they both entered, she started talking again. I'll need you to take off that cloak and strip to your underwear in order to get an accurate measurement. Fine, was all he said before doing as asked, carefully folding them before putting them down on the floor in the corner. I thought you disappeared over a year ago. I just got back is all. Why do you ask? Is there a problem with me coming back to Konoha? No, I just haven't heard anything about you returning yet. Naruto, I had no problem with you before you left and certainly don't now. After taking the measurements while asking a few questions here and there, mostly about what he was going to be doing in the clothes, Naruto finished the order after putting his clothes back on, though not before Yukari looked them over, and made his way to the hot springs for a little relaxation, as it was one of the few places that wouldn't overcharge him or kick him out. Once there, he quickly paid for his stay and went in to the male side of the hot springs and found an empty portion of the spring to sit in. Although his relaxation was cut a little short by the perverted, and all too familiar by this point, giggling coming from a secluded corner of the hot springs. After getting up and walking over to the source of the noise, he found that it was coming from near the wall that divided the male and female sides of the hot spring. Specifically, it came from one Jiraiya of the Sannin spying on the girls who were bathing there. Naruto, deciding to give him a little help, kicked him right over the fence, followed soon after by the angry shouts of the spring's current occupants, as well as Jiraiya's cries of pain. Satisfied that he could once again get back to relaxing, he returned to his spot where he once again sat down and closed his eyes to enjoy the hot water, completely ignoring the angry and pain-filled screams. After the bath at the hot spring, he returned to the apartment he was staying in and went to bed, after a bowl of ramen, that is. To be continued. Chapter 4. The Academy. 2 days before the academy starts, 10 a.m. Naruto has spent the past week looking for suitable living conditions, with a bit of training in between his search and breaks. He finally found the perfect place just yesterday and was now working on the paperwork and payment. Right, just sign here and we're done. He signed his name on the paper, stuck it in the photocopier, printing one copy and handed the original to the real estate agent. There you go. The real estate agent looked at the signature, while Naruto quickly put the copy in a seal and looked up angrily. Sorry, but there seems to be some trouble and I can't sell you this house. I'm afraid you don't have any choice now. I have the deed. You've been paid and I have a copy of everything. Naruto deadpanned at the angry agent. Or would you like to go to the Hokage about this? I'm sure he would love to hear and investigate why you can't sell me this house. BBB, but I can't sell a demon a house. Well, that's okay cause I don't see any demons here. And with that he left, key firmly in hand, which he had picked up before signing anything, to pack up his measly belongings back at his old apartment. 30 minutes later, 10:35 a.m. Naruto had packed all his stuff, his TV, his new clothes, which he had picked up before going to sign the papers for his new house, a few DVDs and his kitchen equipment. He had decided to take his old orange jumpsuits for a nice fire later, but he threw the moldy towels and such in the trash, then made some shadow clone, having mastered the ability and even trained with it a few times back at his native village, had the clone henge into someone and sent him to the house with the scroll he had sealed everything into. Before he locked the door for the finale time and headed to his old landlord's office. After knocking and hearing enter, he entered and encountered his landlord, who briefly looked welcoming before taking in who was in front of him, turning angry. What do you want, brat? You can relax, I'm moving out. I'm just dropping off the keys. He held up a few keys before tossing them onto the man's desk. Have a nice life. Heh. Don't expect the deposit back. So you're planning on keeping the deposit the Hokage made, despite the fact that the apartment's just fine, and the agreement wasn't broken. Yeah, right, I highly doubt the apartment is fine, the man said, his disbelief obvious. If you don't believe me, just go look for yourself. I'm gonna go drop the pictures I took of it off at the Hokage's office. He did indeed drop a bunch of photos of his apartment off at the Hokage's office with a note explaining the reason for the pictures. He would have told the old man himself, but he was busy, before heading off to buy furniture for his new house. His first stop was getting a new mattress and bed frame, because the old ones were crap. He had discovered that no one recognizes him with his hood up, so he has been wearing it since he came back, which is why the realtor didn't know who he was before seeing his name, and the only reason his landlord recognized him was because he didn't have it up at the time. Upon entering an appropriate store, he quickly found a suitable set and had paid for it within a few minutes. After sealing them up, he left to look for a furniture store. After walking down the road a little ways, he accidentally ran into someone. The person turned out to be a young blonde, blue-eyed girl. Her hair was shoulder-length with a blue hair clip holding it away from her face. She wore an orange tank top with a pair of pink tight-fitting pants. "Hey, watch where you're going." He looked over at the girl. He accidentally knocked over from his position on the ground before sheepishly rubbing the back of his hooded head and replying, "Sorry, I was a little too focused on finding a furniture store, I guess." He chuckled a little at his own clumsiness. "Yeah, well, did you say furniture store?" she started to say before her eyes widened and her head whipped to look over at him excitedly. Yeah. I need to get some stuff to furnish the house I just got." Before he knew what happened, he was being dragged away by the now really excited blonde girl. 2 minutes later, they were inside a random furniture store, and the girl, whose name he found out to be Ino Yamanaka, was showing him a bunch of different items and asking questions about the flooring of his house, what the counters were made of, what color were the walls, and all kinds of other things. By the end of her interrogation and his answering, she led him to look at more specific items, sometimes asking an attendant some questions. By the end of which he had bought all the necessary furniture and a few not-so-necessary furniture, after which he sealed the items, surprising Ino in the process, and left the store intending on going home to put it all together and set it up inside the new house. After another 5 minutes, he noticed that Ino was following him. Is there a reason you're following me?" "Well, you kind of forgot to thank me for the help." "Okay then. Thank you, Ino, for helping pick out furniture for my new home." "No problem. Fashion is kinda my thing. Furniture or clothing. If it involves style, then I'm the girl to talk to." A few minutes later, she was still following him. "Is there any other reason you're following me?" "Well, I thought you'd like some help finding good spots to place everything, and I was wondering what your place looked like." She said the last bit under her breath, nervous that he might find it too prying. Sure, why not? He didn't see any problem with it. In fact, he could use the help finding places for everything. And so the two arrived at the house that was surrounded by a large yard of green grass with a few tall trees here and there. The house itself had 3 floors, with an attic above and a basement below, and looked a lot like a log house, except at the 4 corners of the house, there were large square stone columns. Along the front of the house was a spacious covered deck made of some dark wood. Beyond this was the elaborate door that looked as if it would suck you into it. Once they reached for the gate, Naruto suddenly stopped, then tilted his head like he was thinking about something, but what he was really doing was sorting through the memories he had just got from the clone he had sent there earlier. Once he straightened his head, as if he figured something out. He took a step back, then did 2 hand seals, and the gate opened by itself, motioning a slack-jawed Ino, who didn't notice his use of hand seals or the gate opening by itself as she was captivated by his house. Through. Noticing that she wasn't paying any attention to him, he tapped her shoulder until she looked at him and again gestured for her to enter, this time acting like a butler for a few laughs, at which she giggled a little while slowly walking through the gate, still stunned by the building in front of her. Once she was through, Naruto entered himself and crossing the yard, the gate seemingly closing behind him, to the steps leading up to the deck and his front door. "Well, come on, open up the door already, so I can see what we're working with," ordered an impatient Ino, after getting over her shock. Yeah, just give me a sec. I have to disable my little security system first," which he did by going through another set of hand seals and then placing his hand at the center of the door. After dealing with his security system, which the clone he had sent earlier had put up earlier, thinking that it was best to get it up as quickly as possible, you never know when an angry villager will come to try and tear the place apart, he unlocked the door. The inside of the house was as great as the outside, if it not better. The floor of the entrance was done in a dark mahogany wood. The walls painted a green that made you think you were staring up into the leafy canopy of a lush forest with the sun peeking through. One could see the perfect-looking kitchen through the doorway to the left of the front door. I'm going to let you make your own decision on what it looks like. The other door on the left led to a splendid dining room, despite the fact that it wasn't furnished yet, with the same flooring, but this time the walls were a welcoming sky blue. The silver chandelier, which was hanging over the middle of the room, started off with a metal cylinder with metal tendrils, which had a bunch of small light bulbs running along them, coming down from the bottom then curling back up while circling the cylinder, with enough space between for a small light bulb, joining in a small ring just above the cylinder. Where the silver chain that the chandelier hung from came through, smaller tendrils that came out of the ones swirling around the cylinder drooped down, ending in points just below the point where the first set of tendrils turned up. Through the first door on the right led to what might be the living room with, again, the same flooring, but this time the walls were a deep gray, not oppressively, and it had a certain calming effect on the occupants. The second door on the right led to what looked like a guest bedroom, done up in the same way as the living room. The third door on the left led to a beautiful bathroom. The tiling on the floor that went halfway up the wall was a light gray and hexagonal in shape. The other half of the wall was covered in thin strips of a brown wood, and if one looked up they would see the same strips on the roof as well, that went all the way around the room. To the right of the room was a glass sink, with a curved chrome faucet with the hot and cold handles to either side, set into a light-colored wood vanity. Just past the sink and to the left and around a small wall was the toilet. Straight across from the door was the shower, or at least the doors to the shower, which were made of a dark wood. Across from the front door was an elegantly carved staircase, which looked like it was made from one really thick tree, curling around itself to the floors above. "Wow," was all Ino could say, as Naruto took his ever-present cloak off and hung it up in the closet by the front door. "So why'd your parents send you out to get furniture for this place? I wish my parents would let me do this kind of thing." She was looking around, thinking of the best place to put everything, as she talked, turning toward him as she neared the end and seeing the blonde boy who her parents had told her not to go near and who always seemed to be alone, and was startled by the fact that the boy didn't have the smile that she usually saw plastered to his face. Instead, there was a look of intense sadness. It made Ino want to comfort him somehow, but she didn't know how. "They didn't, kinda hard to do that when you're dead, I guess, he said with a bit of grim humor. Ino's hands flew to her mouth as she realized what happened. "I'm so sorry, I didn't realize." But her hurried apology was just waved away though. "It's okay, honestly. It's a lot better than some of the things I hear," Naruto said truthfully. "Okay. Wait a sec, if it wasn't your parents who got this place and all that stuff, then who got it for you and who gave you the money to pay for all the furniture we got today?" she asked accusingly, wondering just how he could have gotten the money to get everything. "I guess you could say that most of it came from my inheritance, the rest I kinda just ran into on my way back to Konoha," he said, thinking of the money Orcus gave him before he left to travel back to Konoha and the bounties of low-level criminals or bandits he collected along the way. "On your way back? Doesn't that mean you left?" She was curious now, and her inner gossip needed to be sated. "Yes, on my way back, and yes, that does mean I left," he said, exasperated that she had even asked those questions. "When? And why?" Still curious. "I left over a year ago to travel," he said, trying to think of words that won't cause unwanted attention and not having expected them. "Really? Where'd you go?" This time she asked out of suspicion, sensing he was hiding something. Trying to avoid giving her a straight answer, he said, "Around, nowhere specific," at which she just stared at him, trying to figure out what he could be hiding. "We should really get to work on the layout of everything so I can get everything set up faster later," he said, trying to get her on to a different subject. Which worked, as she remembered she had free rein to set up a house, if the grin that grew on her face was anything to go by. 4 hours later, 4 p.m. "That should do it. Just tell whoever you got helping you put everything together where it goes, and you should be fine," Ino said after making the last adjustment to the layout of the final room. Since she insisted on going through each room and drawing up separate layouts for each and then making adjustment upon adjustment before she was satisfied. Needless to say, it took forever and Naruto was near his breaking point. "Finally, that took forever. I mean, I'm not complaining, but it is getting pretty late." "Oh, it's not that late. It's only..." Ino took a look at her watch and gasped in shock for a clock. "My parents are going to kill me." As soon as she finished talking, she rushed to gather her stuff and put her shoes on, and with a quick, "see ya around," she was out the door and running home, hoping her parents weren't going to be too mad at her. Well, that was odd, Naruto said to himself. Never having had parents, he didn't understand why they would care. "Oh well, I guess I'll get started on setting up." Since he had put up some chakra suppressing seals, he decided to summon some help. "Summoning jutsu," he called, after doing the necessary hand seals. When the smoke from the jutsu cleared, he could see 5 foxes, each with 2 tails swishing behind them. The one the far left was a male with a white body that was topped with gray. Next to him was a female with a white body, this time topped with orange. The one in the middle was another male. He had a black body topped with gray fur. On the far right was a white and black furred female. And the last one was completely white male. All of the foxes were as tall as two grown men, if they were standing on their hind legs, that is. "Good afternoon, Naruto-sama. How may we help you today?" The foxes all chanted together, well aware they weren't in a combat situation. "What have I told you guys? Call me Naruto. No need to add any honorifics on the end. We apologize, but we do not wish to be rude. After all, you do have Kyubi-sama inside you." The white Naruto had known this since the day after he had awakened in the caves under Yuzushio village and had realized the reason for all the hate and animosity directed at him. But he didn't blame the Kyubi for any of it. After all, neither one of them chose to be in this situation and both chose to make the most of it. "Just forget it, Kit. The only way they are likely to stop is if I am no longer inside you," the Kyubi said from within his mind. "Besides, I couldn't even get them to stop calling me that. I'm not even technically one of them, and they treat me as if I'm their ruler. Fine, guess I'll just have to learn to accept that," he told the demon. "Whatever. I could use your help in setting up my new house. I'd do it myself, but I don't have the height to do some of the things I need to do. And I'm not even going to try asking if anyone's willing to help me. Not when I know that they'll just slam the door in my face or say they'll help me out just to steal my stuff." "I take it we're in Konoha now?" the completely white one said, with obvious distaste of the place. "Yes, Lanato. I still don't understand why you chose to come here, after all they did to you. I know Orcus said that he had taught you all he could and that the rest you had to do by yourself and that the safest way was to do it in a village, but that doesn't mean you have to do it here," the now identified Lanato said, having been there when Orcus said this and talked to Naruto about Konoha before. "I told you, Lanato. I thought it was better to do it somewhere familiar than somewhere that's not. Besides, with the seals I placed on my clothes, they can't touch me anymore. Heh. Can you at least let me guard you, in case they try something?" Naruto-sama, Lanato said, with a pleading look in his eye, full of worry. "You know you can't. This village hates foxes more than any demon, except the Kyubi, and it would cause too much suspicion if you did it in your human form. All of the kitsune have a human form and a fox form, as it's one of their abilities." "I agree with Lanato, one of us should guard you," the female with orange said. "I also agree with Lanato and Lomesai," the other female said. "I also agree. I cannot let you go unguarded in this village, not after what they have already done to you," the black and gray male said. "I however do not." You all heard what Naruto-sama said. "If we were to guard him here, we would only end up bringing him more trouble," the white and orange male said. "Thank you. Nix, sort for Nixgamich. At least you understand. Now can we get to work?" All the foxes nodded. "Good. Now I want Lanato and Suki to work on the top floor. Lomesai and Dina will work on the middle, and me and Nix will work on the ground floor. You'll find everything you need in each of the rooms, including the layout." After finishing telling them what they were working on, Lanato and the black and gray wolf went over to the stairs, followed shortly by Lomesai and her fellow female, leaving Naruto and Nix on the ground level. Another 2 hours of hard work later, 6 p.m. "And we're done," Naruto said to Nix, who was now in his human form, which looked like a pale-skinned older man with orange hair wearing standard shinobi training gear, as they finished the last room, just as the other four came down the stairs in their fox forms, as they didn't like remaining in their human ones for long. "We just finished up upstairs. Do you need any help here, Naruto-sama?" Lanato asked. "Nah, we just finished. You guys can go home if you want. I was gonna go grab some food. If you'd like to join me, tell me now so I know how much food to buy." "As much as we would like to stay, we cannot, Naruto-sama. We don't want to put you at risk after all," Nix said. "Yeah, I guess you're right," Naruto said, well, rubbing the back of his head sheepishly. "Well, I guess I'll see you guys later." "Only if you summon else, Naruto-sama," Dina stated. "Till next time, Naruto-sama," was Suki's farewell. "Yeah, don't be a stranger and summon else whenever you need help," Naruto-sama, Lanato said. "See ya, Naruto-sama," Lomesai told him. "Farewell, and don't let those people get you down," Nix exclaimed. After this, the foxes all disappeared puffs of smoke. After the smoke cleared, Naruto headed over to Ichiraku's for ramen, and that was how he ended the day. Gates of the academy 2 days later. Naruto was ready to cause a diversion, ready to prank, ready to pretend to be an idiot, and most importantly, he was ready to live a double life. He had prepared clothes for when he was playing the part of the idiot Naruto Uzumaki and for when he decided to be himself, and for when he didn't want to be seen, he had 2 sets of gear, one set into condition, the other in perfect condition. Right now he was standing in front of the gates to the academy, as Naruto the idiot with his true skills hidden, and he was ready to let hell break loose. Ugh, I can't believe you still have those. I thought you only kept them to burn later? Ino said, well, coming up to Naruto. She was also the only one who had any idea of Naruto's true power. I did burn some of them, but I kept the others for school, was Naruto's reply. Why would you? She questioned. I thought it would be fun to trick everyone into thinking I was an idiot, good practice for being a ninja too, he explained. Fine, whatever, it's not like I can talk you out of it anyway. So what do you want me to do to make your act more believable? 'Cause I know you got something for me to do in that plan of yours, she asked in a resigned, but still unhappy voice. Naruto just smiled his foxy grin, with a mischievous twinkle in his eyes. Oh, you don't really need to do anything more than ignore me. Maybe spread a few false rumors here and there. Oh, and don't worry, we can still meet up when I'm in my normal clothes. Fine, but you owe me for this. Yeah. Just get in there already before someone sees us together and ruins the whole plan. Okay. See you later, she said before running off. Naruto put on the goofy grin of his temporary persona, hating it but knowing it was necessary, before counting to 10 and walking after Ino. And thus started his academy days. Chapter 5, Graduation Day. The first thing Naruto found out about the so-called Ninja Academy was that it was so badly set up that it was producing fangirls instead of kunoichi, and spoiled brats who think they're tough just because they learned a simple clone jutsu instead of shinobi. So rather than sit in the class that should be making ninja, Naruto just sent a shadow clone in his place. Not that the clone would stay in the class for long, as Naruto was playing the fool. He had the clone skip classes and pull pranks instead, sleep in class, and of course acting like an idiot whenever possible. There was a few people able to tell that the Naruto in class was a clone like his godfather, who took to stopping by more often now that Naruto knew about him but wouldn't do or say anything due to his guilty conscience. Ino, who had been hanging out with him quite a bit when Naruto accidentally revealed this to her. But overall nobody else figured it out, though it did help that he had designed the clone to be undetectable and nearly indistinguishable from the original, though he could only make a couple before he ran out of usable chakra, meaning the amount of chakra one can use without fainting and or dying. While his clone was at the academy, he was in the forest of death doing real training, such as working on his chakra control, taijutsu, kenjutsu, genjutsu, ninjutsu, nintaijutsu, and finally fuinjutsu. Of course, he did most of his fuinjutsu training at his house except for when he practiced using it for combat. In the 5 years it took to complete the academy, he had met and befriended a few people, like 2 of Ino's friends, Shikamaru Nara and Choji Akimichi, Shino Aburame, Kiba Inuzuka, Hinata Hyuga. He also got to know Tenten better, after making her father's shop his go-to weapons place, and even more so when he started making quality seals for them to sell when he found out they were being overpriced for substandard ones. Flashback. He was just entering the Iron Claw when an angry shout blasted from inside. He wants to what? Geez, quiet down would you? He said as he finished going in, after the shouting stopped. Didn't know shouts could stop a person like that. Sorry about that, Naruto, my dad just got some bad news dash. Bad isn't the half of it. The guy who's selling me seals just raised his pricing and I'm starting to get complaints about them. If I had someone else to get the seals from I would switch. But I don't, and this guy knows it, so he's trying to get as much as he can out of me. Her dad interrupted, with tears streaming down his face. I'm gonna go bankrupt at this rate. Well, if you just need quality seals, I can help you out, Naruto said with an uncaring attitude. I am nearly a master in the art after all. At that, both Tenten's and her dad's head mechanically turned to him with frozen expressions. What? Was the simultaneous shout that they screamed at him. Why didn't you say anything? You never asked, was his calm reply, at which they fell on their faces with massive sweat drops hanging from their heads. But if you want me to make seals for you, we should probably hash out the details. You know, like how many seals do you need per month, what types of seals would I get in exchange for the seals, that kind of thing. At this, Tenten's dad seemed to disappear, only leaving a dissipating cloud shaped like him. While he's doing that, what can I get you? Flashback end. After that, I got the gear I came for and hashed out all the necessary details and went on my way to prepare the first batch of seals. I still wonder where they got those bunk seals. Oh well. 5 years from the end of last chap. Naruto was sitting near the back of his class at the Ninja Academy waiting for the graduation test to begin, Why was he there, you ask? Because his godfather said it was too important for him to send a shadow clone, though in truth he had also heard that the Hokage was going to be watching over their graduation test, and he wasn't disappointed. The Hokage was standing patiently by their teacher's desk, which was set in the left side of the room, from Naruto's perspective, with the entrance to the room on the right, which was open and awaiting the last few students and their teacher, or instructor as he calls himself, Irika Yumino. When the last two students entered, which just so happened to be Ino and a pink-haired banshee by the name of Sakura Haruno, who came in arguing with each other over who got to sit by Sasuke Uchiha, I still don't understand why they are so infatuated with the stuck-up prick, even though Ino tried to get me to see just how great he was as well as how much of a genius he is. Honestly, the only thing he's got going for him in my opinion is a mild talent for fighting, good looks, and the fact that he's the last loyal Uchiha. Though I doubt he's going to stay loyal, what with the vengeful thoughts that must be going through his head, though I wonder what would happen if I told him the truth about what happened. You see, I just so happened to have quite a knack for spying and analyzing situations, so I had known all about the Uchiha's plan for an uprising and Itachi's plan to stop them by getting the Hokage to do something to calm them down. Of course the Hokage didn't want that, so he went to one of his advisors, Danzo Shimura, and had him come up with a plan to put down the uprising more permanently. Danzo being the snake, came up with a plan, alright, the plan being make Itachi kill off his whole clan, with the exception being a young Sasuke, and the move in with his rude agents and take the eyes of all the Uchiha so he could have their Sharingan implanted in him by the traitor Orochimaru. It really is amazing what people do and say when they think no one's watching and listening. Naruto thought to himself, well, he continued to watch the arguing duo. I'm gonna have to break her of those fangirl ways of hers or she'll end up dead one of these days, he thought while focusing on Ino. On second thought, I won't tell Sasuke. It'll bring unneeded attention to me. Besides, it's not like he'll believe me anyway. At that moment Irika decided to make his appearance, telling the class to calm down. Of course that didn't work, and he resorted to using his big head jutsu and yelling at them, which the class listened to for whatever reason. Alright, now that I have your attention, Irika said with an irritable tone, then cleared his throat, we can move on to the graduation test. But first, I believe some of you may have noticed the guest that has come by to watch. May I introduce the third Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen. Hello children. I just wanted to stop in and see how the latest group of potential ninjas turned out. So I'll be watching you while you take the test, Hiruzen told the class. While Naruto inwardly scoffed, the only reason you have to stop by is to see how your plans involving me and the Uchiha are going. Naruto had discovered these plans when he subtly left a clone in the Hokage's office to find out if they stole any Uzumaki artifacts and to find out if the old man's been hiding anything from him. Flashback: Hokage's office, sometime 2 years ago and shortly after Naruto left said office. Stupid boy, so ignorant of you to think I would tell you about such things as why the villagers hate you and who your parents were, Hiruzen said to himself, thinking he was alone in the room. As if I would tell you that you have the power of the Kyuubi no Kitsune at your fingertips, or that Hokushina Uzumaki was your mother, whose only useful deed was to give me access to some Uzumaki seals even if they were just a storage seal and the dead demon consuming seal, or that useless brat Minato Namikaze was your father and the only useful thing he did was seal a demon in an easily influenced child, the clanless fool. As the old Kage ranted, he did his paperwork so it wouldn't pile up. God, he hated it, but he couldn't think of a single thing to make it more bearable. It's a good thing my plans for him and the Uchiha are going as well as they are, otherwise I'd have to force the Uchiha to get some bitch pregnant and find a way to move the demon from the boy to someone more easily controlled and start all over again. As he finished speaking, there was a knock at the door to his office. Enter, he said with a welcoming tone in contrast to the more malicious one he'd been using while talking to himself, and he saw his secretary poke her head in. Sir, it's time for you to take a break and take your evening medication, she said politely, then left, closing the door behind her. While the Hokage sighed, wishing he wasn't so old. It really is a shame Orochimaru decided to abandon the village instead of continue to do research for me on ways to make me younger and immortal. Oh well, Hiruzen said to himself after she left, then took his meds. Better check and see if the boy somehow figured out we managed to take some of the Uzumaki clan secrets, and I might as well take a look at the Uchiha ones as well, he said, well, getting up and walking out of his office and heading for the Hokage's private library, where the forbidden scroll lay among the many scrolls that contain techniques that past Kage have stored there for future generations. Meanwhile, with the clone, well, pretty much nothing I didn't already knew. Well, might as well see where he's hiding my stuff, the clone thought to himself, having known who his parents were thanks to the Kyuubi and only put up the illusion that he didn't know anything beyond that he was a part of the Uzumaki clan, before taking off after the elderly man only a few seconds after the man left the office. Back with Hiruzen, who was now walking down the underground path that led to the library after 10 minutes of walking. 5 minutes later, he was standing in front of the large stone wall that was the secret entrance to the library. A quick scan of the Hokage hat, and the wall soundlessly moved into the walls. The clone blinked, then thought to himself, "That's it, what kind of security is that? It's almost like they want someone to steal shit from here. Those seals are a complete joke as well. They looked like a butchered copy of a butchered copy of a butchered copy of an Uzumaki's basic locked door seal, which would be put on all entrances of a person's residence." Then quickly moved through the opening, as he noticed it was closing. Hiruzen quickly moved to 2 rows of shelves with the Uzumaki crest on them and took a few scrolls down, taking a look at them and then putting them back, before walking over to 7 other rows, these ones having the Uchiha crest on them, and repeating the process. It's really too bad that only an Uchiha and an Uzumaki can open their clan scrolls. Otherwise I would have had their secrets in my possession without the need to manipulate the boy and the Uchiha, and I could have had the Uchiha killed with the rest of his clan and the boy's demon sealed in a more submissive host. As it is, if I want to reseal the demon, I'd have to find another Uzumaki. The price we pay for power. So that's what those plans of his were for the Uchiha and me. Now what to do about the scrolls? I guess I could find out what seals are protecting them and make fakes for each of the scrolls on the Uzumaki and Uchiha shelves and come back later to switch them out so as to make sure the old man doesn't suspect anything. The clone thought. Well, the old man left and headed back to his office. Then with his plan set, he went to work analyzing the scrolls' names and seals. It helps that he had a photographic memory. Once he was done, he decided to look at the other scrolls in the Hokage's secret library until there was only 1 scroll left, but it was guarded by a true Uzumaki seal that couldn't be broken, and only the Hokage knew the code to get into it. Oh well, guess I'll figure out how to get it later, and place an observation seal for now. After quickly placing the seal so that it had a perfect view of the scroll, it glowed, then vanished as it started recording, and Naruto's clone dispelled itself, sending its memories to Naruto himself. End flashback. Back to present after Iruka finishes explaining the test. A 3-part test on Nintai and basic information and skills. That is really easy, Naruto thinks to himself before discreetly looking at the other kids in the class. And yet everyone seems really nervous. They must not understand how low tier this is compared to the training and test I've heard other villages give their recruits. Naruto, stop sleeping and listen. Iruka yelled at him as he threw a piece of caulk that hit his forehead, which caused him to fall back in his chair, making him fall back and to the floor. Sorry, Iruka-sensei. It's just that your explanation was really boring, Naruto says, well, rubbing the back of his head sheepishly. Anyway, Mizuki will be handing out the written portion of the exam. Do not start or even look at it until I say so. Understood? Iruka said, which was followed by a loud chorus of, yes, Iruka-sensei. From all the students. Good, Iruka said as his assistant, Mizuki, started handing out the test, and Naruto started to act nervous so as to keep up appearances. Okay, begin, Iruka said once everyone had their test. When Naruto looked down, he felt both insulted and surprised to see that there was a genjutsu on his test but not on anyone else's. I don't know whether to be insulted they thought this would work on me, or upset that my idiot persona wasn't good enough to make them think I wouldn't pass this even slightly. After going through the test and answering in such a way that even with the genjutsu he would still pass, though only barely, and it make the one who put the genjutsu on the paper think he passed through sheer luck. Okay class, please follow Mizuki outside for the second part of the test, while I grade the written portion. After making their way out to the field and over to the fighting circles and target range, Mizuki turned to the class and had them form up in front of him, with the Hokage to the side calmly watching. Alright, first we're going to test your accuracy with the basic weapons of a ninja. Each of you will get 10 kunai and 10 shuriken that you will throw at the targets, and you'll be scored by how accurate you are. We'll be going alphabetical by last name. Good, I can relax for a bit. But not too much. I don't need the old man to catch on. The original idea of letting the cat out of the bag when he graduated was thrown out the window when he learned that the old man was trying to manipulate me into opening the Uzumaki scrolls he had in his possession. Selfish bastard. Though that wasn't so much a problem now that he had the scrolls and had them hidden in the Fox Summons realm along with the Uchiha scrolls. But he didn't want to take any chances. Naruto Uzumaki. It's your turn. Naruto looked up and saw everyone staring at me, with a few muttered dobes scattered around. Sorry sensei, what was that? I ask, the stupid grin still plastered to my face, while rubbing the back of my head sheepishly. Something that's become something of a habit, the snickering and calls of dobe increasing. I said that it's your turn to throw kunai and shuriken. Oh right, hey. I say while acting like I was a little nervous from not paying attention, as I make my way over to the table with the kunai and shuriken on it. After throwing them so that I would get a fairly low score, really only barely passable, I turned and sat down, discreetly looking at the Hokage, who seemed to be quite happy with himself for whatever reason. After me came Ino, who scored fairly low but still higher than me. Then we moved to the next part of the test. Okay, now comes the taijutsu portion of this exam. You each will be fighting a classmate. Since there is an even number of you, your opponent will be whoever is opposite you alphabetically. Meaning if your last name is near the last of the alphabet, you'll be facing someone from the beginning of the alphabet. Understand? Yes, sensei, we chanted. Due to the fact that my name is second to last, when alphabetically ordered I was second and had to fight a civilian-born kid, I didn't bother to learn his name, and due to the fact that I was acting like an idiot, I decided to take a brawler style of fighting, charging in as soon as the fight started and throwing punches and kicks at random. By the end of the fight I was worn out, but I had beat my opponent anyway. After boasting about my superior skills and winning the fight, until I was told to shut up and go sit down by the teacher, I sat down and started waiting for this part of the exam to finish. 30 minutes later the teacher called out, "Okay class, let's head back in and get started on the last part of the exam." Once back in the classroom we were told that we would be called down and have to do the 3 basic jutsu that we were training in, the Bunshin clone. Only reason I put Bunshin was cause it sounds better, the substitution and the transformation jutsus to be exact, and then we'd be told if we graduated or not. As I was the last on the list of people to go up, I just sat back and waited while watching Kiba sit on a desk and glare at Sasuke before the kid behind him bumped him, and he fell forward and landed lips first on Sasuke. Thus when he opened his eyes, Kiba found himself locking lips with Sasuke and the entire classroom was silent. Before I decided to open my mouth, "Yeesh Kiba, I thought you just wanted him as your rival, not your boyfriend." And with that the entire class burst out laughing, with the exceptions being Ino, Sakura, and the rest of Sasuke's fan club who were screaming at Kiba. Sasuke, who looked kinda stunned with a distant look on his face, and Kiba, who was sputtering nonsense. At this moment Hinata came back in, as she had left to be tested before all this happened, and looked around in confusion before walking over to Naruto. "And Naruto-kun, what's going on?" she stuttered out upon reaching him, though he was still trying to break her of the habit. "Oh hey Hinata, Kiba just decided to make out with the Uchiha, is all," was my response, at which point Kiba finally regained the ability to speak. "Shut up Naruto, you know that I'm not like that." This statement seemed to knock the Uchiha out of his daze, and he didn't look too happy, but all he did was mutter "dobe," and head back to his desk. "And Naruto, you shouldn't say such things about your friends," Hinata stuttered from her position beside him. "Yeah, I know, but I was just joking, you know, to keep up appearances," I whisper into her ear with a fox-like grin on my face, as she was one of 4 friends that knew the truth, with the others being Tenten, Ino, and Shikamaru, who had figured it out on his own and confronted me about it one day. Tenten had known since the beginning, like Ino, and Shikamaru discovered a few inconsistencies in my behavior, but only because he was around me enough and smart enough to notice, and was eventually able to piece together some of the truth and confronted me about it right after. Not in the eye of the public though, it was a good thing I had planned to tell him about it already, and on the exact day he wanted to confront me too. So I led him to the secure point, so as to not be spied on, that I had set up beforehand, and told him everything. At that moment another piece of chalk hit me, and I fell out of my seat again, followed by a shout of, "Naruto, stop daydreaming and get down here now." To which I did my customary apology and made my way down. "Now, Naruto, I want you to do a substitution with my desk chair." I did it, but only well enough to get a low mark, just a pass. "Now do a henge." I did the sexy jutsu and got nosebleeds from Mizuki, Irika, the Hokage, some of the guys in the class, and a few girls too. "Naruto, that's not what I meant," Irika screamed before lowering his voice and saying, "I meant a henge into another person." "But Irika-sensei, I did do one," I said, tilting my head in confusion, causing Irika to blink and think about it before nodding and moving on. "Right, well just do the bunshin so we can move on." At this I pretended to get really nervous while purposely messing up the jutsu and making 2 very faded and sick-looking clones, at which the whole class burst out laughing at. "Okay Naruto, go sit down," and I did with a fake dejected look and a quick glance at the Hokage and Mizuki. Seeing both with barely concealed grins, odd, why is Mizuki so happy? After me came Ino, and she passed the test quite well. After Ino's test Irika gave the results, which was pretty much everyone graduating with a few civilian-borns and me failing, after which he said that all those who passed should meet up in a week at 8 a.m. for team placement. 5 minutes later, in the schoolyard. "It's okay Naruto, I know you'll pass next year," the Hokage said before heading back to his office, with a few muttered curses about paperwork. After a few minutes of fake depression passed, with him sitting on the swing in the schoolyard listening to the other kids' parents mutter about how happy they were that he failed. Mizuki made his way over to him. I really thought you would pass this time, Naruto, he said with an obviously fake compassionate tone and look. Then he pretended to make sure no one was within hearing distance. I'm not really supposed to say this, but you could take the makeup test. There's a makeup test? What do I have to do? I asked with a false hopeful tint to my voice. All you have to do is break into the Hokage's library and take a big scroll with the kanji for kenjutsu and learn as many jutsu as you can from it by midnight tonight. You got all that? I nodded my head furiously upon being asked this before hopping up and running off hook, line and sinker was what Mizuki probably thought as I ran off. But he just gave me the perfect way to take the forbidden scroll without getting in trouble and blowing my cover, so I went to plan at my home. After a quick dash across town to my house, after stopping at the Iron Claw to drop off the month seals, that is, I went to the planning room and started laying out the plan. Because I was aiming to keep my cover, I needed to do this just right so that I wouldn't blow it, no need to cause more trouble than necessary, right? After an hour's planning, I grabbed a snack and was off to enact the plan. The first step was to get in, that was the easy part. The Umbu station there I dropped by from time to time, so they thought nothing of me walking through the front door. The second part was locating the library with the right scroll. This was slightly harder as there was 5 libraries in the house. The third step was to time the departure so the Hokage saw my exit and I flashed the sexy jutsu to knock him out for a little while. The fourth part was to have Irika catch sight of me and make sure he knew where I was heading. The fifth part was to look through the entire scroll and memorize it in its entirety and wait for Irika to show up. The sixth was to stall and rat Mizuki out till Mizuki showed himself, and after Mizuki shows up I would play it by ear. After Mizuki showed up and just before he started his rant. Tell me, Naruto, haven't you always wondered why everyone hates you? Mizuki asked. Mizuki, stop, it's against the law, Irika screamed, while I pretended to dumbly nod my head. It's because dash. Mizuki, I'm warning you. You have the Kyuubi no Kitsune sealed inside you, and that makes you the Kyuubi. You are the Nine Tails, you attacked the village, you killed mine and Irika's parents, you killed the 4th Hokage dash. He sputtered a few more things like that, but at that point I was trying so hard to not laugh. Well, the fox he was claiming I was sounded like he would die if he laughed any harder. And now I'm going to kill you, Mizuki concluded while throwing a windmill shuriken at him. Though with that aim he would have only hit the tree he was standing beside, at least he would have if Irika hadn't jumped in front of me. Erg! Irika cried out after it hit him in the back. Irika-sensei, I called out, still playing along, then charged blindly at Mizuki only to get kicked away. Ha! If that's all you got, then you should just lay down and die. Ahahaha. Mizuki broke off laughing. In response, I held my hands in a cross-like shape and called out multi-shadow clone jutsu, which was followed by a massive plume of smoke which cleared shortly after to reveal 1,000 copies of himself, which I set on Mizuki. Well, I merged in with the crowd and helped beat him up, leaving him as a bloody unconscious smear on the ground. Naruto, come over here, Irika called from where he was leaning against a tree, and I rushed over. Irika, sensei, are you okay? Yeah. I'll be fine, but I need you to do something for me? What is it, Irika-sensei? I want you to close your eyes until I say to open them, okay? And when I did, I heard some rustling from behind me and in front of me, and I felt Irika take off my goggles and put on something in its place. Okay, open them. When I did, I understood what he put on my head but decided to continue acting like I didn't. Irika-sensei, where's your headband? For good measure, I tilted my head in feigned confusion. At which Irika flicked my forehead, prompting a ping to sound, before saying, Congratulations, Naruto, you are now a genin of Konoha. At this I widened my eyes. It was an unexpected thing to happen after all. But Irika-sensei, I failed the exam, I said sadly and in a clearly disbelieving tone. Well, to be quite honest, the only reason you failed was cause of the Bunshin Jutsu, but you fixed that by learning the Shadow Clone Jutsu, he said, well, rubbing the back of his head. Well, how about we go have some ramen to celebrate? But what about Mizuki team? Oh, don't worry about him, the Umbu will pick him up in a sec. Oh, okay then, let's go. Ramen, I shouted in absolute happiness to be getting my favorite food, one of the few things I didn't fake. 2 hours, 50 bowls of ramen and a short walk. I was in front of my house waving goodbye to Irika and thanking him for the ramen. Well, he cried over his lost money. After watching him walk away, I went inside and started considering the team placements. Chapter 6, the Genin Test. After considering all of the candidates that were to become ninja, and I use the term loosely, I decided that the only team that would be a best-case scenario would be me, Shikamaru, and Ino, but with the Hokage the way he is more likely going to be me, Sasuke, and Sakura. God, that would be awful, a screaming fangirl and a gay Avenger. Well, one can always hope, and that was the thought Naruto had as he walked into the classroom with. Hey Dobe, what are you doing here for? Only those who graduated should be here. Or are you such a dobe that you forgot you didn't have to go to the academy today? Came the animalistic shout of one Kiba Inuzuka. Well, I guess you should be glad I did graduate, or you would be the dobe of this year. At that, I flicked the metal plate on my forehead to emphasize my point. Not to disprove your point, Naruto, but you actually had a higher score than Kiba, thanks to the henge you did for the final test, that is, so he's still the dobe of this graduation class. Sorry, Kiba. At the sound of Irika's voice, I looked behind me to see the man himself smiling down at me. In fact, Naruto's henge got the best score out of the entirety of all graduates since the start of this curriculum. It's quite the achievement, and I'd say that nothing short of a genjutsu master could even come close to detecting it. Shit, I didn't think I made it that well. I hope I didn't accidentally blow my cover. At this thought, I glanced over at the class and saw every single one of them with their jaws on the ground, and I took out the camera I had for photographing my pranks, for my scrapbook, and snapped a picture. WHAATTTTTTTTTTT was the unanimous cry from the class. Yep, still can't believe I didn't pick up on it after all this time. I mean, come on, it was right in front of me, Irika said to the class while rubbing the bridge of his nose. I know why you didn't notice, Irika-sensei, I said quickly, before he could change the subject. Really, why? Irika said in a curious tone of voice. It's because you were too busy perving on the goods, and after you got back up from your pervert meltdown, I had already changed back. At this, Irika nodded his head. Yes, that would explain it. Aha! Irika-sensei admits that he's a pervert. And just like that, everything seemed to freeze as Irika seemed to be trying to make out what I said. Damn it, Naruto. I am not a pervert, he yelled at me. But you admitted to perving on the goods, so that means you are Irika-sensei? Or are you saying that you lied? In which case I can't help but think what else you lied about. I got to love it when the victims dig their own holes, I thought as I watched Irika sputter trying to find a way out of his proverbial hole, and the others in the room laughed at his expense, if they were guys, and glared angrily at Irika if they were girls, though admittedly there was some girls laughing too. Well, pervert sensei, I think we should get started. Don't you? After lightly glaring at me for making him dig his own hole, and then pushing him in it, he just told me to go sit down so he could start. MPH. Well, now that we're back on track, insert glare at Naruto, I would first of all like to congratulate all of you on passing, and give you a warning. The career of a ninja is not always saving people and bringing evil to its knees, as I'm guessing a lot of you have assumed. There are times when you have to be the bad guy, where you will be the one kidnapping the princess, where you're the evildoers. You may assume that now that you have become genin you are equal to everyone in the profession. You're not, and in fact as of right now you all part of the weakest class of ninja. You might have assumed that each time you take a mission you're guaranteed to come back alive and uninjured, and sometimes you will, other times you, a teammate, a friend, someone you know that's a ninja, or anyone in the profession of the shinobi will not be so lucky. Right now you're probably wondering why I'm saying all this. It isn't to demoralize you, but to get you to stop being foolish and see this as the job it is. Now, just out of curiosity, how many of you think that when you're in danger someone will show up to save you? And just like that, nearly every girl in the class, including Sasuke's entire fan club with the exception of Ino, rose their hands. And what do you suppose would happen if there's no one within 100 miles who could or would help you and an enemy was about to kill you? And just like that, every girl who raised their hands paled. But sensei, that's not very likely to happen, is it? One of the girls asked timidly. Not Hinata. She didn't raise her hand in the first place. It's more likely than you think and happens a lot more than I would like to admit, but you can all relax a little because you won't leave the village unless your sensei thinks you're ready, and that means you have to train, you have to get stronger, and the stronger you get the less likely that is to happen. Now, who can tell me what's essential to get stronger? I raised my hand. Yes, Naruto. A proper diet, speed, endurance, and strength training regimen. Mastering everything you can, whether it be a taijutsu style, a new jutsu or a weapon you just got. I said before pulling out a pamphlet and saying, at least that's what it says in this. Well, your pamphlet would be correct, and to you girls who are on diets, what he means by a proper diet is that you need to eat a little more and it needs to be a balanced meal. For example, Naruto here can eat 58 bowls of ramen in one sitting and not look like he gained any weight from it sometime later because of how much and how hard he trains, because any weight he would have gained is lost practically right away. What he got really fed up with them starving themselves. Now it's time to announce your teams and Team Sensei. First is Team 1, which is made up of A few minutes later, what I don't want to make up a bunch of names that aren't ever going to be used past this point. It would be pointless. Team 7 will be Sakura Haruno, Sasuke Uchiha, and Kiba Inuzuka. Your sensei is Kakashi Hatake. YESSSSSSS. A simultaneous call went up from Sakura and Naruto, causing everyone to look at them and Sakura to look at Naruto. Naruto, why are you shouting yes? It's not like you were put on my team, Sakura asked. Sorry about disturbing the class, Irika-sensei, I accidentally fell asleep. And to answer your question, Sakura, I shouted because I was about to win. Win what? She asked, well, tilting her head. Well, the racer I bet on was going to win, which would mean that I won a whole lot of money, that is. I said, well, putting on wistful look. If only he had really won that race. When I finished talking, I let out a sigh. Naruto, when did you ever even get a chance to gamble? Sakura asked. About 6.5 years ago, a little bit before that. I had left the village on family business, and when I had free time I used to do a bit of gambling. Even met a blonde woman with a big rack and terrible luck by the name of Tsunade Senju, and when I say terrible luck I mean if you ever see her, get her to play cards with you. Cause you could be absolute garbage at the game and still beat her. And once again everyone's jaw was on the ground. This time though Irika's joined them. What? Did I say something weird? You've actually met the Tsunade Senju? One of the Senin? Was the call that was echoed by the whole classroom. Yeah. She was quite grumpy at first, but after I helped her out of some trouble and won her a bit of money, we had a fun few days before we both moved on to other places. It's too bad she had some good stories and even taught me a few things before we went our separate ways. This did not help anyone with picking their jaws up. If anything, it made it even harder. Meanwhile, in a meeting room where all the senseis for the newly formed genin teams were, everyone were in similar states from hearing the same thing the genin did, only through a crystal ball. So the brats already met Tsunadeheim, huh? And by the sounds of it, they got along quite well. Jiraiya, who had come to see which team his godson got put into, said to himself before adding, wonder what she taught him. God damn it, I should have asked for him when I had the chance. Was the cry heard from all but one of the jonin. You snooze you lose, said the voice of the one jonin who didn't echo the curse. Not giving any hints, you'll find out soon enough anyway. Before blowing out a cloud of cigarette smoke, God damn it, keyboard. I just said no hints and you practically told them. At least she didn't teach him any of the stuff I taught him, Jiraiya said to himself, deep in thought. This simple statement caused the jonin in the room to get even more down and the one who got him to get giddy with excitement. Back in the classroom of newly made genin, everyone has finally recovered from the bombshell that was Naruto's statement. Well, moving on, a clearly disheveled Irika said before going on to announcing the next team placement. Lest Naruto drop another bombshell to get them off track, Team 8 will be Hinata Hyuga, Shino Aburame, and Choji Akimichi. Your sensei is Korinia Yuhi. They just looked at each other before turning back to the front of the class and nodding their understanding, right? Team 9 is still in rotation, so Team 10 is Naruto Uzumaki, Ino Yamanaka, and Shikamaru Nara. Your sensei is Asuma Sarutobi. If you didn't guess that, well, I feel sorry for you and those around you. Oh, you mean that old guy that smokes a lot? Yeah, sure, I can handle that. And if one had listened, they would have heard a tiny voice off in the distance say, I'm not that old. That was slightly muffled by the sound of laughter. Well, you all have an hour for lunch and to get to know the people you'll be working with. And Naruto, try not to prank anyone too bad. Okay? Sorry, sensei. I don't make promises that I can't 100% guarantee I will be able to keep. I said with a devious grin on my face that made many in the class pale slightly. Fine, just don't do anything permanent. Okay. And at that the class let out a sigh of relief. Hey, what smells like piss all of a sudden? Some of the civilian-born kids looked away trying to act innocent while those around them moved away, under the guise of going to talk to their new teammates. The others weren't so lucky as they couldn't cause they are part of the teams that had one, or more, of the innocent-looking kids in it. Come on, Naruto, let's go get something to eat, Yuta Shikamaru Ino called from the door. Okay, I'm coming, I said. Sure. Can we hang out with Choji's team as well? Was a lazy response from the Nara. Why? Ino said, sounding quite confused. It'll make the transition easier for him, came the lazy-voiced Nara. Not that other Naras don't sound like that. Sure, I don't mind any. I'll even pay for lunch, my little graduation gift to you guys. I pitched in reply. Okay, I guess, was Ino's unsure response. Yo, Choji, grab your team and let's go for lunch. I called over to him and his team, getting a surprised eep from Hinata. Though when I looked over at them, I saw the newly formed Team 7 in a kind of three-way stare down, with Sakura looking at Sasuke, who was looking at Kiba, who was looking at Sakura. Needless to say, it looked very awkward. "So where are we going to eat?" came Hinata's stuttered question, which gave me back the ability to look away from the awkward-looking Team 7. "Whatever you guys want will be fine. I got enough to pay for whatever." What do you mean pay for? And Naruto-kun? "Well, I'm paying for the meal, and you guys are choosing the location," I responded. "Why you don't have to, and Naruto-kun? I can pay for myself." "Nah, it's cool, I volunteered to do it anyway." At that, Hinata seemed to be trying to think of a way to stop me from paying for everyone but couldn't. "Right, let's go get some barbecue," Choji said, and before anyone had a chance to argue about the choice in venue, he was out the door and leading the way. "Barbecue it is then," I said before going after him. Everyone left on the teams just sighed and followed along after me. 2 hours later, back in Irika's classroom. "Welcome back. Everyone now please wait here for your Jonin-sensei," Irika stated before sitting down at his desk and doing his end-of-the-year paperwork. "Team 8, come with me," a very beautiful feminine voice said at the door, and the members of Team 7, Choji, Hinata, and Shino, got up and walked out after her. 20 minutes later. Only Team 7 and 10 were left in the classroom with Irika now, and I am getting bored. "Hey, Irika-sensei, what you working on?" I asked in hopes of something to entertain me. "Just some last-minute paperwork, student reviews, equipment requests, and new resource order forms. Just the usual stuff." "Oh, okay then," I said, slightly deflated at not finding anything interesting before I remember the new storage seal I was working on. But before I could even take the supplies out, Team 10 with me, and with that I seemed to teleport right in front of him. "Whoa, do you know the Shunshin already?" "The what? Crap, why am I making mistakes now?" "Never mind, let's just get going." And with that we walked around for a minute, though it seemed like he was trying to lose us. If he was, then he tried to do it with the wrong kid, 'cause I know Konoha like the back of my hand, so he never stood a chance of getting away. When we finally stopped, we were in one of the parks, and our Jonin-sensei, Asuma, was leaning against the swing set near the balancing beam. "Have a seat and tell me about yourselves." Shikamaru practically fell down to a seated position, as if it was too much work to do it slowly, while me and Ino sat normally. "Asuma-san, shouldn't you introduce yourself first?" I stated. "Or do you not use proper manners?" "Well, if you put it like that, I guess I kinda have to tell you about myself first. And Naruto, it's Asuma-sensei." "Not until you start teaching us, it isn't," I stated again. "Ah well, my name is Asuma Sarutobi, my father's the Hokage. My likes are my family, training, shogi, and cigarettes. My dislikes are people who become ninja but don't bother to train. My hobbies are trying different cigarettes and comparing them, and making new attack strategies. And my dream for the future is to see you grow into excellent shinobi." "You're up, Nara." Shikamaru let out a sigh before sitting up a little. "Shikamaru Nara. My likes are shogi, cloud watching, deer, my clan's forest, and my friends and family. My dislikes are work and anything to do with it and troublesome things. My hobbies are cloud watching and shogi. And my dream for the future is to be an average ninja with an average wife and 2 kids. A boy and a girl," was the lazy description of himself, which caused everyone to sweat drop at him for the sorry excuse for a dream. "Okay then, you're up, Yamanaka." "Ino Yamanaka. I like my hobbies, my clan and their jutsu, my family's flower shop, my friends, flowers, shopping, cute things, and tea. I dislike nuisances and pests that somehow get in my garden, and people who make decisions based completely on what others say. My hobbies are training and gardening. My dream for the future is to live happily with a loving husband and kids, and to be the best kunoichi I can," she said with a smug tone, which said she was going to do it too. "Good for you, you're up now, Naruto." I took a glance around to see if everyone was paying attention. They, Ino and Asuma and even Shikamaru, seemed to be listening intently. "Naruto Uzumaki. My likes are training, my precious people, and ramen. My dislikes are idiots who think they know everything, bullies, ghosts, poorly maintained weapons, and people who try to control others. My hobbies are training and trying and comparing different ramen. And my dream for the future is to still be alive and relatively unharmed. At the end of my description I smiled and acted like I didn't say anything wrong. Well, that's certainly a different dream. Don't you want to do anything, Naruto? Yes. But I can't do any of that if I'm dead or too badly injured. Okay, what do you want to do then? You really want to know, Asuma-san? He nodded and seemed to lean in, as did Ino and Shikamaru. You sure? Again he nodded and leaned in, and again both Shikamaru and Ino leaned in. I motioned them to lean in more, and they did, and then said very slowly, what I want to do in the future is a secret. It took them a second to register what I said before the all-face faulted and I burst out laughing at them. Troublesome blonde, Shikamaru grumbled out, while picking himself up of the ground and back into his previous sitting position again. Hey, I take offense to that. Even if I agree that that was a dirty trick, Ino exclaimed, and Shikamaru said nothing in reply. Okay, before we get even more off topic, you guys have to take a test to see if you are ready to become genin or if I should send you back to the academy. God damn it, I thought we were done with tests. I said to keep up appearances, even though I knew exactly what this was for. Well, this is the real final test, and you have to do it separately. If you caught trying to help each other, then you all fail. Yeah. What's the test already? I said, trying to rush things along. You each have to successfully find one colored flag, which you'll find by following the clue I give you. But we'll do that tomorrow, so don't worry about it too much. You're all dismissed for the day. Why'd you even tell us about the test then, if you were just going to make us do it tomorrow? Ino said with a dry look. To prepare, obviously. You'll always have time to prepare for a mission before you set off. Therefore you shall get time to prepare for this, he said. Then continued, of course most of the time you won't get this much time to prepare, but that's not the point of the test. Okay, if you say so, Asuma-san, I said. Well, see you guys later. Meet me at training ground 10 tomorrow, Asuma said before flashing away. After a few minutes' silence, only broken by the wind blowing through the trees, I let out a sigh. He's gone. And so is the eye that was watching us, and nobody of concern is in the area. Good. Now you can relax and maybe ditch the abomination of an outfit you're wearing, Ino said, clearly pleased to know that I didn't have to pretend to be an idiot. So what do you guys think of the test? We're supposed to work together without getting caught, was all I said. Yeah, I thought much the same, Shikamaru said. Don't have a clue how though. We don't have anything to discreetly talk to each other that could be used when we are not in view of each other. We could try out the new seal I finished last week. It lets 2 or more people talk to each other over long distance by lacing one's thoughts with chakra and sending them through the seal. No need to even open your mouth. Is there anything you can't do with your seals, Naruto? Ino asked in a monotone. Make babies, I replied, before adding, though I could up or lower the chance of pregnancy. I can't actually make life. Ino blinked a couple times before saying, "Oi. Not sure I needed to know that yet. Would you be able to control which gender the baby comes out as?" Shikamaru asked, sounding oddly excited. Yeah, no problem, that's easy. Heck, I could even make a seal that give a person twins with either both genders or just one, I responded. Why is my dream won't be wrecked by the random baby gender thing, Shikamaru shouted out, surprising both me, Ino, and a few people in the village. I didn't even know a Nara could do that, Ino said. I didn't know Shikamaru was capable of that, making that much noise and doing so much to make it, I said. Wait, you mean that was seriously your dream? Ino suddenly asked. I mean, the one I said was just in relation to how I wanted to live. Naruto's was to mess with everyone. And I still want to know what your dreams are, Naruto. Anyway, I kinda just figured you were joking. No, it would be too troublesome to think of a fake dream, he replied. And I'll tell you guys what I want to do in the future when I think you can handle it without having a heart attack, Ino, I said to her. Fine, keep it a secret, you stingy bastard, Ino grumbled out, before getting everyone back on topic. So how does the seal work, Naruto? The birth seal? Well, it's fairly complex so that nothing gets mixed up or mixed together, but the idea dash. No, the mind communication seal thing. She cut him off. Oh. Well, that's a lot simpler. First I'll need some of each of your blood to mix with the ink. Then I stick one hand in the ink and the other on one person's neck and it's there for good, at least until I take it off or one of us is killed. The only complex bit is the separation seal that's built into it. Its purpose is to put simply, keep our minds separate, and to keep the seal from transmitting all your thoughts to others with the same seal. And thanks to a variation of the blood seal, only those whose blood is in the seal can communicate to others who have blood in the same seal. So even if two people have the seal, they can only interact with each other if both their blood is in each other's seal. Quite a nice piece, really. I thought you said it wasn't complex. That sounds really complex to me. And won't Asuma be able to see it? Ino deadpanned. In comparison to the birth seal, it is simplistic. And no, he won't, thanks to the vanishing seal. A seal that makes any seal it's worked into, if done right, that is, disappear upon completion of the main seal. Why do you think some seals seem to disappear? I don't know, I never thought about it before, she answered. Oh well, let's head to my place, the eye is coming back along with unwanteds. Fine, but this better be quick, Ino huffed. I have things I have to do. You mean spy on Sasuke, Shikamaru said, getting Ino to blush and stammer out a hasty no. A few minutes later, and we were in my living room. Make yourselves comfortable, I'm gonna go take a quick shower and change out of this orange bullseye. Some would call a jumpsuit. Now, I would have complained then you said you were getting out of the eyesore, so I could actually get a look at you, Ino said. Wow, Ino, I didn't know you were so bold. To openly admit you were gonna try and watch me change like that. That caused Ino to blink and think about how she worded her statement. When she figured it out, she blushed a deep, almost Hinata red, and started to stutter about how that wasn't what she meant, and her nose trickled a bit of blood. Yeah, sure. Anyway, you guys know your way around and what rooms you're allowed in, so feel free to help yourselves to anything. You know the rules about that, so don't break 'em. The rules were made up when I caught them in something they shouldn't have been in, the experimental weapons room that's one of the special seal rooms in the basement. More on that later on. Needless to say, they almost died, and some rules were made up to make sure they didn't get themselves killed by touching something they shouldn't have. Oh, and your personal weapons are almost done. They're on the final design phase where I weed out the stuff that doesn't work properly. I told them after remembering about that. They had asked for them after they found out that I could make specialized weapon with unique powers or qualities about them. In case you're wondering why he even asked Tenten's dad about the sentient sword thing, it's because they require two people and clones are too easily dispelled. I still don't know why you even bother buying weapons when you can make them yourself. Because they take forever to make, so it's more productive to buy them, I said as I walk out of the room and to the master bedroom and the ensuite bathroom. After a quick shower and change of clothes, Naruto was back in the living room. Replacing the orange jumpsuit was a dark red, slightly loose-fitting long-sleeved shirt that partially covered his hands, not to the point that it impeded him, just enough to hide what they were doing in a fight, and a pair of what looked like dark gray umbu only with lots of pockets, a pair of black sandals, and to top off the look was a black cloak which closely resembled that of the Grim Reaper, except with the ability to open at the front, enough that you could see Naruto's entire outfit, but was specially designed to be able to close to the point his entire form was obscured without hampering his movement. The cloak was also designed so that there was specially designed holes which were undetectable to the naked eye, so one could reach their gear that was beneath the cloak. Why is it that whenever you get the chance to wear normal clothes you practically always wear that cloak too? Ino said when she got a look at what I was wearing. I mean, it looks good, but we're not even going anywhere, or even outside for that matter. It's just something I like to wear. Besides, it's incredibly useful, I responded, before putting on a creepy smile and saying, now who wants to give blood first? Why are you smiling like that, Naruto? Ino timidly asked. Shikamaru was behind her and shaking slightly. Oh, no reason, but you didn't answer the question, who wants to go first? The smile didn't slip for a moment. I guess I will, she stammered out. Good. And at that moment my smile went from creepy to excited anticipation. Both of you follow me to the basement then. Why the basement? And why are both of us going? Shikamaru spoke up, not entirely comfortable with the look on my face. We're going to the basement because the room that I make my ink is there, and the room where I will be applying the seals onto our necks is there as well. And you're both coming so that I don't have to go up and down the stairs so much. This did not comfort his teammates much, but there was nothing they could do as he had made sure they were in front of him when they started down the stairs to the basement. At the bottom of the stairs they found themselves in a small room with one door. The room's walls had dark wooden panels and the room itself was completely bare. The sole door in the room seemed to be made of metal and had a keypad-like seal next to it. Isn't that the door that leads to the experimental weapons room? And shouldn't there be more doors or something? Ino asked. Yes, it leads to that room. No, there isn't any more doors because one was all that was needed. After saying that, I walked up to the door's keypad and pushed a few buttons. After I finished, the door seemed to click, and I turned back to them. Now the door leads to the waiting room. Shikamaru, and you go. Shikamaru walked up and opened the door to find a completely ordinary waiting room that you would find at any office. Okay then, how did that happen? He asked, seemingly dumbfounded. See the seal beside the door? It connects this door to different seal rooms. All you have to do is type the right code to get to the right room. The only reason you got into the experimental weapons room before was because it was the last door I had used at the time and I forgot to lock it. I fixed that issue though. Okay, now what's a seal room? I doubt it's a simple room you do seals in, he asked next. Quite right, that's the seal room, which will be going to after I make the ink. A seal room though is a seal that contains a room of varying size depending on its use and is very handy. This door has all of the seals for the seal rooms on it and connected to the keypad seal so as to control which room you enter. There is a similar seal door in each seal room so that you can travel to the other rooms faster. What happens if two people from two different rooms try to enter the same room? One person goes into limbo until the door in the target room closes. Then the target room's door opens on its own and the person in limbo walks out as if nothing ever happened. Or if the door was badly designed, one of a few things could happen. One of which is the two people fuse into one person. Another is one of them disappears never to be seen again. Shikamaru paled slightly at that, but had to ask one more question. Fused how? Well, the body will be a combination of the attribute between the two people and the new being will suffer from split personality disorder, the different personalities being that of the ones who were fused together. And now that his curiosity was satisfied, he went into the room, closing the door behind him, and I moved back to the keypad and typed in the code for the ink room / blood drawing room, and opened the door again. This room looked like a mad scientist version of an operating room mixed with an old-fashioned ink production factory, and it was scaring the shit out of Ino. Well, come on Ino, we better hurry so you can do those things you were talking about. I led her over to the cold steel operating table and attached a blood siphoning device to her arm. The device had a metal and glass tube attached to it, and a thin plastic tube leading to the arm clamp that was around Ino's arm. The device itself looked fairly sinister for a little black thing the size of a basketball hanging from the ceiling with all of the glowing red grooves and lines on it. Overall, if Ino hadn't been scared before, she was now. Now just relax and it'll all be over soon. This did nothing to relieve her fears. And then I switched to a cheerful attitude and said, okay, you're down. She just blinked a couple times before saying, what? That's it. Yep, that's it. Then why were you acting like it was such a painful experience or something? She exclaimed in a slightly raised voice. Because watching you panic is funny, to which she gaped at me. You made me almost have a heart attack for a few laughs. Yep, I said. Now it's Shikamaru's turn, so let's go. After typing the code at the door, I opened it up to see the waiting room. Shikamaru, the doctor will see you now, I said creepily. As Ino walked into the waiting room, still gaping though, to Shikamaru it would look like she was shell-shocked or something from the experience, and to a seat in the corner. Right, this is going to be troublesome, he said before walking into the room, turning a little pale. After repeating what I did with Ino with him and going back to the waiting room with him, after grabbing the metal and glass tube that had my blood from this morning joined with Ino and Shikamaru's blood and the chakra-conductive ink, looking just like Ino did. After leading him in and waiting a few minutes, they both seemed to come out of their daze, or at least Shikamaru did with a muttered troublesome. Ino, however, exploded out of it. What the hell, Naruto? She screamed before calming down. Did you just prank us? Yes. Why? Because I was starting to get twitchy, and twitchy is not good for fuinjutsu use. What do you mean twitchy? I mean my hands start to twitch uncontrollably when I haven't done a prank in a while. Thus why it isn't good to use fuinjutsu. One messed up piece and I'd blow something up. Okay, I forgive you then, she said, though she had lost a bit of color in her face at the mention of blowing something up. Right. Now let's go put the seals on, I said as I turned and walked to the door again, typing in yet another code, and opened it once more to reveal a different room. This room was completely bare, with wooden walls, roof, and floor. This was not what I was expecting, came Ino's unimpressed voice from behind me. What were you expecting? Weapons lining the walls. Hate to break it to you, but this is the ideal room to practice or use fuinjutsu in because there is nothing in it and it's perfectly clean and all the surfaces are flat. This is a room for work, not play, I said after turning towards them and gesturing to the room. getting them to stare at me as if I grew a second head. What? I never thought I would hear those words from your mouth, she said, with Shikamaru nodding in agreement. I'm very serious about fuinjutsu. You kinda have to be, since if one line is off the entire seal will be affected. And you learned this where? I mean, no one here knows even half of what you seem to, at least to my knowledge, so where did you learn it from? She said, clearly wondering where I came by this knowledge on a nearly extinct art. It's one of a few things I learned from the time I wasn't in the village, I replied. But wouldn't this take years to learn? Shikamaru put in. It took precisely 4 years to acquire my knowledge on fuinjutsu, or at least that was what the time I spent in the time-stop seal equated to for that training. The what? This time both Shikamaru and Ino asked at the same time. The time-stop seal, it's a seal that stops time from moving around and in you. To those not under the seal's influence, it would appear as if the person just sat down to start reading a book before getting up and saying he finished. But from the person under the influence, it would appear as if everything has stopped moving, even his own heart, and he could read the entire book, then deactivate the seal, stand up and say he was done. Although if you move from a single spot your body to those outside the effect of the seal will see your body disappear. And you haven't taught the village this? Why? Ino asked alone this time. Would you teach the mind transfer technique to anyone outside your clan? No. But that still doesn't explain anything. Actually, it does, Ino. He's saying that it's a clan's secret technique, Shikamaru stated. Got it in one. It's my clan's, the Uzumaki clan's, technique that's handed down to only Uzumakis, and is not to be given to anyone else under any circumstance on pain of death, of both the one who learned the technique and the one who taught it to them. It's also to only be used in combat situations where there is no other route to success or training. So you've never used it for any of your pranks? Nope. If I had, the entire village would have been pranked at once and not seen it happen or have any proof who did it. That got a look of fear to go across both their faces. Anyway, we have a seal to place on our necks. And with that, I created 2 clones, one for Ino and one for me, and divided the ink in the metal tube between 3 wooden bowls that I collected from a hidden compartment in the middle of the floor, and had my clones sit beside 2 of the bowls, and Ino sat in front of one clone and I sat, with the 3rd bowl, in front of the other with Shikamaru in front of me. So how's this work, Naruto? Ino asked. Simple, you sit still for 5 minutes while the clones and I do our work, and then we test out the seals so you guys know how to use it, and we're down, and you can go about the rest of the day as normal, only now you can contact us at any given time. Cool, right? Can we only transmit our voices to each other, or what? Ino asked. Well, technically you're not transmitting your voice but your thoughts, so any thought you send through the seal is sent to the other too. Whether that thought is an image or a voice is irrelevant, as it will be sent anyway. Heck, you can even send something that you're currently watching and listening to in real time to the others connected to the seal. That's helpful, Shikamaru said. It'll help a lot in the field. Yeah, but not recommended to use right away without any experience in the seal's use, as it could cause you to become confused. I replied before saying, okay, enough chit-chat, you keep distracting me, and I'll never get these on you, so save your questions till after. They both stopped moving as much as possible, while me and the clones simultaneously moved one hand into the ink while putting the other on the neck of the one in front of us, and started the process of channeling our chakra into the ink and using it to drag the ink up our arm and across our chest to our other arm, then down that arm to the neck of the one we were working on. Then we worked the ink into a very specific design, then shouting, Fuinjutsu, seal of the telepath, Fuin. Okay, we're done. Overall, the entire process took 5 minutes exactly. You hear me, all right? I just heard your voice in my head. Wow, that's weird. Now how do I do it? Ino said. Well, since you're both novices, you'll be able to properly use it by applying chakra to the seal, either through touch or by sending chakra to the area of the seal and keeping it there while you think of what you want to transmit to the others. But ideally you would want to just focus on the seal and just think, or if you're trying to transmit something you're seeing or hearing or both, you'd focus on both the seal and the sense or senses. But as I said, you're novices when it comes to this seal, so you'd need to become accustomed to using it before you can do that. And the only way to do that is by focusing chakra to the seal and thinking about the message. It'll get easier every time you use it, so feel free to use it the entire day. Somehow I knew this would get troublesome somehow, Shikamaru said. You don't even need to move to use the seal, Shikamaru. Just think and channel chakra to it. I deadpanned at him. I thought you said I had to touch the seal to use it? That was a suggestion to help you focus chakra there, but you don't need to. You could just focus the chakra there to use it. I replied before saying, now before you two leave you need to use it at least once, to get an idea on how to use and so I can help if you're having trouble. Ino, you first. Okay, she said nervously, before putting a hand to her seal and trying it. Testing 1, 2, 3 testing. Very good for a first-timer, though you may need to add a little more chakra to it. It was a little quiet, try again. Once again her arm was on the seal, you mean like this. Perfect. Shikamaru, did you hear her all right? He just nodded, good, your turn. He just closed his eyes and focused for a sec. How? This. Well, you did about average on your first time, you need to use more chakra and keep it steady, 'cause you were fading in and out there. He nodded and tried again. Like this. Yes, but it's still a little too quiet. If it's too quiet the others won't get your message because of their own thoughts. At any rate you guys can now practice on your own without any trouble, so let's head back upstairs. And once more I walked over to the door and pushed one button before opening the door to see the basement stairs again. I let them out first before walking out myself and typing the code for the waiting room into the pad before leading the way up the stairs. Once up the stairs and in view of a clock, Ino gasped, how is that possible? It hasn't even been a minute since we went down the stairs. Didn't I tell you? Time moves differently inside a seal, and since those rooms we were in were essentially the inside of a seal, time inside them moves differently inside them. That's why it's not a good idea to spend too much time inside them, unless they are set up for long-term use. I got a couple of long-term rooms for training reasons. They act similar to the time stop seal we were talking about before. Now, any questions about the seal on your neck? Yeah, it seems pretty much the same as my clan's mind transmission jutsu. Does it have the same limitations as it? Ino asked. Probably not. The seal doesn't have any drawbacks other than the fact that you can only communicate with others with the exact same seal, and you can't add others to it. Heck, even the chakra use isn't really necessary after you use it enough, you'll know when that is, and it doesn't have any mental backlash because it's not true telepathy. But that's really hard to explain, so I'm not going to try. I explained anything else. No, I'm good. Is there a set range where the seal can't transmit past? Shikamaru asked, ever the strategist. Nope, I only really used the term transmit for lack of a better one. The seal is just a way to link to each other, to simplify it. Anything else? Nope. As we talked I led them to the door, and when we finished talking I let them out and said, see ya tomorrow, to which they responded, yeah, see ya, and everyone went to do their own things. The next day at Training Ground 10. Glad to see you all here on time, Asuma said. Now I'm going to explain a little more on your goal, which is to locate something. You each will be placed at a different point of the training ground and told the same clue, at which point you will have to make your way to the place the clue indicates. The first ones there become official genin. Any questions? What are we trying to locate? Shikamaru asked. My location upon the start of the test, based on the clue. Anything else? We shook our heads, and in an instant he moved so fast that before we even knew what happened we found ourselves alone, with a piece of paper each, and in different locations from each other. But thanks to the seal we were able to communicate just fine. Well, here we go. Shikamaru, what's the location the clue points towards? I was never too good with riddles. By the looks of it we each only got part of the clue. Mine says, stronger than the strongest man. What do you guys got? Shikamaru asked. Mine says, I am able to change my form at any time, though I prefer my current one, Ino said. Mine's, I can be as fast or as slow as I want but will never deviate from my path. Okay, this is beginning to sound like a river. Is there one of those around? I gave my clue and my opinion on a possible location. There is, it's near the entrance to this training grounds, but I thought you said you weren't good with riddles? Ino replied. I'm not, but that one was a little obvious. Don't you think? It was, which probably means there is another place that matches the description. There is only one other place that could match the clue. The lake near the center. Okay, who's closest to the river? Shikamaru reasoned. I am, Ino stated. Good, go check and see if Asuma-san is there. If I'm right he's not, me and Naruto will go check the lake without Asuma-san seeing us. Whoever spots him will contact the others. And Ino, don't let him see you if you do spot him. I pointed out, be stealthy in your scan of the area. We don't want him to only spot you in the correct area. If he does we all fail this test. Yeah, I know. After that we went to check out the possible areas for Asuma, Ino taking off to the river from her spot in the training grounds, me taking off to patrol the lake, using shadow clones while the real me went to link up with Shikamaru. Rivers clear, no sign of the goal, Ino sounded out. Okay, meet me and Naruto by the rock formation on the eastern edge of the lake. He's almost down as well, Shikamaru ordered. But don't get within close range of either me or Naruto, we don't want it to seem like we're cheating. When Naruto finds him, he's gonna say the location out loud to us. Yeah, I understand it didn't take her long to get within the proper distance, which just so happened to be at the same moment I found Asuma's position. Ah, so he's over by the cliff, I shouted out before running that way. There is only one cliff by the lake. While Shikamaru and Ino formed up at a distance from me and each other, so that they were running beside me with no one in front or behind anyone else. After a 20-minute run, we arrived at the cliff at the same time as each other, and stood in front of Asuma simultaneously, and he spoke up when he saw us patiently waiting. Well, how the heck does that work? How does what work, Asuma-san? I asked. How is it that you all arrived at the same time without any of you having coordinated it? That depends, do we pass? Shikamaru said. Well, yeah, I guess you do, he answered. We were using a seal to communicate with each other discreetly. So it was a coordinated effort? We nodded. Then you definitely pass. Good, and don't bother asking about the seal. It's restricted to the Uzumaki clan and those they trust, I stated before he could ask. I'm your Jonin sensei, you should be able to trust me with anything. I don't know anything about you, so how can I trust you with anything other than doing your job? What about Shikamaru and Ino? He asked. They know nothing about the sealing arts and I didn't tell them anything about the construction of the seal, though I still trust them more than you at the moment. But even if I did trust them enough, only the proper clan head can decide if it's okay to distribute a clan secret, or a seal made by an Uzumaki under Jonin level. Something about a special test to see if the person can truly be trusted, I explained. Besides, they only have the seal on them, and there is nothing against the placing of an Uzumaki clan seal on non-Uzumaki clan members. You just need to make sure to put in a seal to make it so only Uzumaki clan members can see the seal, active or not. Okay then. Could you place the seal on me too so I can stay in contact with you guys? I'm afraid it is not that simple. The seal requires that all those who are getting the seal need to give a bit of blood to put into the seal, so that only they can talk to each other. I can't just place the seal on you. I would have to take the seals off of us, then redo the entire process again. And the process to remove the seal is very long and very uncomfortable, so not going to do that unless it's absolutely necessary. Okay, then what am I going to do? Use a radio set? Or have one of us relay the message, Shikamaru stated. Or I could order him to redo the seals. Konoha Clan Charter Rule 5. No one can order a clan member to use clan technique against their will, Ino said to counter him. Every clan member learns the clan charter, so as to know what their rights as clan member is before they enter the ninja corps. That rule has only one exception, and that's jujitsu. Oh right, oh well. Report here tomorrow for training and your first mission. Both Ino and Shikamaru perked up slightly at that. But Naruto's expression didn't really change much. What's up, Naruto, aren't you excited for your first mission? How you say something, I was just thinking I should take a look at that charter thing before it gets too late. Don't fall for the trick. When he says first mission he means D ranks, which are just chores people don't want to do themselves. Hey Ino, do you have a copy I can read at your place, right? Yeah sure, you can come over after we're dismissed. Anyway, you were saying something, Asuma-san. Yes, I was just saying that we were starting training tomorrow, and depending on how well that goes we might go on your first mission. Oh, you mean one of those D ranks that I see some ninja do? I said as if my knowing wasn't a big deal. How did you know that? Asuma sputtered out while pointing at me. I asked one of them why they were doing people's chores once, and they said that their sensei made them get D ranks instead of real missions. Then he started to rant about it all while working. Well, there goes my fun. He sighed before telling us we can leave. Well, let's head over to your place, Ino, I said as I turned toward the training ground exit. Do you even know where I live? Not a clue, but I know where Shikamaru lives. I had to go over to his place once to talk to his father about something. His mom's nice. Don't you mean troublesome? You have no idea how much trouble she can be sometimes. At that, I stopped walking for a sec before I started walking again, missing the glance Ino sent my way. Yeah, I guess I wouldn't know, heh, I said, getting Shikamaru to realize how he worded what he said. I didn't mean it like that, Naruto, sorry, he apologized. Honestly sorry for what he said. It's okay, I know you didn't, I said, before muttering. I just didn't need the reminder. After meeting Ino's family, who was nice enough, though I think her mother was one of those people who saw me as the fox, and reading the clan charter, I headed home to prepare myself mentally for the D-rank missions to come Chapter 7. Chores, missions, and new places. The training Asuma gave turned out to be chakra exercises. Both Ino and Shikamaru had the tree climbing exercise down and have started water walking, and I had already mastered one beyond the water walking exercise but am pretending to be having trouble with tree climbing still, and battle strategy for the first couple weeks in which I managed to fix my mistake in Jiraiya's, who had told me how he accidentally spilled the beans right there in front of everyone. He can be so loose-lipped about my training. Flashback to the day after the true Genin test. Asuma had pulled me over after the day's training and missions before I could leave but after my teammates left. Say Naruto, what training did Lord Jiraiya and Lady Tsunade give you? Asuma asked with a curious expression on his face. Oh, well, Jiraiya didn't really train me per se so much that he helped me with a few prototype seals I was working on, and Tsunade taught me how to keep a straight face and how to bluff with the best of them. Now I can win even more at the table, I exclaimed with Ryu signs in my eyes. That doesn't sound like ninja training to me? Asuma said, slightly perplexed as to what kind of training that was. Ninja training? What are you talking about? I said, tilting my head to the side a little. Well, didn't Tsunade train you in the ninja arts? He questioned back, completely confused now. No. She taught me the art of gambling. At that, Asuma looked a little down. Oh, he said sadly, as if he were a kid who was told that a piece of candy that had caught there I was really a vegetable. Flashback end. The missions we received were all D-ranked and boring, such as finding and catching Tora, painting a fence, finding and catching Tora, babysitting, finding and catching Tora, walking dogs, finding and catching Tora, weeding a garden, and finding and catching Tora, again just recently in that order. If it wasn't for the fact that we got paid for it, I might have been complaining, a lot more than I already was. Even so, if I had to catch that cat again, I might just break its neck. Team 10 reporting back from the successful mission to catch Tora, Asuma said. Good, would you like to take another mission? If so, we just got in a bunch of new D-ranked requests in the Hokage said, and my eye started to twitch. Let's see. There's painting a fence, building a playhouse for a couple's kids, cleaning a restaurant before they open at 5. At that moment, a call of Tora come back. And it looks like Tora nay dash. That's it, no more D-ranks. Give us a C-ranked one or I will unleash a hell that you will not be able to cope with. That's right, more paperwork than you could possibly handle. At this, the Hokage seemed to lose a little color to his face and genuinely scared of that, and even seemed like he would have started groveling at Naruto's feet right then and there. And don't think I can't. I have been pretty tame with the pranks you have seen so far, but I can always break out the ones that'll cause a paperwork overload. And now and Naruto, T the heirs and no and need T2 GG go CC crazy and now. This was something that Asuma had never seen before, a scarred Hiruzen Sarutobi, and he didn't know what to think. You know what I want, was all Naruto said. And the Hokage paled. So pale did he turn that a certain snake looked up and said, "Who is trying to steal my look?" Right in front of their eyes, as he saw that Naruto was dead serious and he gave in. Fine, he cleared his throat a bit. I have one C ranked at the moment. I was planning on giving it to Team 7 but, the circumstances seem to have changed. You will be guarding a bridge builder on his way back home, as well as while he finishes the bridge he is constructing there. And yes, you are to protect the bridge as well as the bridge builder. The rest of the details are in this scroll. Carol, please send in the client from Nami, he said, well, handing the mission scroll over to Asuma, while saying the last bit into the intercom. A few minutes after that, an old drunken man stumbled in and took a look around. So where's the team that is going to protect me? All I see is a lazy kid. A girl with a fashion obsession and a blonde-haired kid who looks like he wants to kill something but isn't capable of doing it. And some guy who looks really cool with a cigarette in his mouth. That is the team guarding you, the Hokage said. Oh, well, at least one of them looked like he would be a good guard. Rurinia get. Well, we will leave in 2 hours. Grab what you need and meet at the West Gate. 2 hours later at the West Gate of Konoha. I had arrived first to look through an underworld bingo book, which is pretty much the same as any other bingo book except the targets are people that someone in the criminal enterprise wants dead, that I had went and gotten from the Yakuza boss of Konoha, who was a friend of mine from way back. Heck, I'd even call him a father figure, and he was one of the few who helped and taught me a little as a kid before coming here. I didn't need to pack because I carry everything I need with me, all my weapons, medical supplies, and extra gear, so I really just needed to go to the gate. Anyway, I was looking through the new edition because I could have sworn I saw the name Tazuna in the last one, so I just wanted to make sure that the name was there in the first place, and B, that it's the same guy. And lo and behold it is, it seems someone named Gato wants him gone and that he wants a pretty specific type person to do it. Suspicious, it's almost like he wants the demon of the mist specifically. I better look into this. Just as I finished that thought, everyone else starts to arrive. When the last person arrives, Asuma, our Jonin sensei, turned to us. Okay, before we head out, I want to check your packing jobs. So hand me your bags, he said. I just brought out a scroll from which I unsealed a bag that I had prepared for this occasion a long time ago. He started with Ino's bag first, which had everything that a C-rank mission would normally require, with a few extras like a few more clothes than necessary, a hairbrush and a lot of makeup. Next came Shikamaru's, which was neatly packed with everything he'd need and nothing unnecessary. Well, your mom did a very nice job, Shikamaru, Asuma said before moving to mine. When he opened my bag, all everyone saw was scrolls, which Asuma attempted to sort through. Keyword attempted. He didn't get much farther than the fourth scroll before being zapped by the fifth. Ouch, what the hell was that? He swore. I glanced at the scroll he dropped on the ground before picking it up and responding. A security seal I designed that's coded to my biometrics. The specific one carries some cash. As I talk, I walk over to my bag and rearrange it back the way I had it before taking out another scroll and sealing the bag back up. Of course, that was just to keep up appearances. In reality, all the scrolls were fakes and held nothing, and all my stuff was in a special seal on my back, and all I had to do to grab something from it was reach either behind me or into a pocket where a relay seal was located while thinking about the item or items I want, but no one but me needed to know that. Okay then. Well, anyway, let's start walking in a diamond formation. Shikamaru on the left, Ino on the right, Naruto up front, and I'll take the rear. We have a bit of a journey, but we should be able to get to Nami by lunchtime tomorrow. And with that, we started our journey. The end? Just kidding. We had traveled until just before sunset, and had encountered nothing unusual as of yet, and decided to set camp for the night. Shikamaru set up the tents while me and Ino collected wood for the standard smokeless fire and hunted for food. We caught a couple rabbits that I made into a stew, and Asuma watched the client. So, Tazuna, how far along is your bridge? I asked, trying to get a time frame for the mission, as all that was stated was that we were to stay until the bridge was done. Fairly far. If I had to say, it's probably a month from completion at best, and for at worst, why do you ask? He responded, then shot a question right back. Just trying to get an idea on how long the mission could take. Why such a wide gap between the time frame though? At this he seemed a little nervous, like he was trying to think of a way to answer that wouldn't reveal a secret. Well, the time frame can change depending on a lot of factors, like whether we have all the necessary materials, if a natural phenomenon happens that damages or completely destroys the bridge, if we have enough men to work on the bridge, the condition of the equipment, stuff like that. Though the bandits don't help things, I don't know about the others, but I definitely noticed the pause when he said bandits, as if he was going to say something different yet similar. Sounds like a lot you need to do. If you want, I can put some seals on it to help keep the bridge standing long after it should have crumbled to dust, as well as some special features to allow a ship to unload cargo though a spot in the bridge, a seal to allow the bridge to self-repair, and a few other things like that. With all of that, it could be a great symbol for your country. A symbol representing great strength and courage to stand up despite others telling you to crumble down to the ground. God damn it, I thought I got rid of that. Obviously not, and it still makes you sound like an idiot. I know, right? I look over at Tazuna and see him with tears streaming down his face and a look of admiration on his face as he opens his mouth. Thank you, that would be really appreciated, and would mean so much to me and my people, especially with what's happened there lately, he said before he realized that he just let slip something he probably shouldn't have. Oh, and what's been happening lately exactly? Asuma asked, speaking for the first time since we settled on this spot to rest for the night. Well, you see, with all the recent bandit activity recently, we've been unable to continue properly. Yeah, that's what's going on, he stuttered out, unaware that he was lying worse and worse by the second, and all ninja present knew it too. Yeah, that was one of the worst lies I have ever heard, and I heard a guy who can't physically lie without harming himself lie. I said, well, deadpanning, and getting Tazuna to look down dejectedly that he failed that badly. Well, not like I didn't already know what I was walking into before we left. I say nonchalantly while leaning against a tree. Wait, what? Everyone shouts out right on K. Even the four hiding in the tree didn't stay quiet when I said that, and when I heard them I opened one eye looking directly at the spot that the four strangers were hiding in and said, Oh, Hello Zabuza and co. What brings you around these parts? After some kind of bounty maybe? I ask as if it was an everyday occurrence to run into missing Nin and their accomplices. Zabuza, who was still wholly stunned that a genin not only found where he was hiding, made him break cover and knew what he was doing there, answered completely truthful and in a stunned voice, yeah, some sleazy businessman named Gato is offering a reward for the old man there. I normally wouldn't have taken it, but it sounded exactly like something I would like. And the pay wasn't too bad either, so I thought, why not take it, you know? Yeah, I happened to read the entry too and thought it was something you'd take on. But I found it a little strange that it seemed to fit you and you alone, almost like someone custom-tailored it to bait you into a trap or something. It just seemed a little too fishy, you know. I said still as nonchalant as when I first started talking to him, before internally flinching and thinking, damn it. Now that you mention it, it does seem like something someone who wants me dead would do. Nah, best not think about it, he stated, finally snapping out of his stunned mind frame, before throwing something on the ground which burst into a bright light that emitted a loud noise. When the light faded and the ringing in our ears stopped, Zabuza was gone without a trace. Flash tag, smart move Zabuza, I muttered to myself, though the other ninja of my group heard and were confused by this. How is it a smart move, Naruto-kun? Isn't he walking right into a trap? Ino asked. In a matter of speaking, yes, but in actuality, no. You see now he knows what's going on. Unfortunately, he can't give up the mission. It would be bad for business, but that doesn't mean he's still targeting Tazuna here, I replied. Shikamaru narrowed his eyes at this. I don't think I understand. It sounds like you're saying that he's still targeting Tazuna, but at the same time not, Shikamaru stated, not quite getting it. That's exactly what I'm saying. He can't go back and say that he changed his mind because it'll sound like he was scared off by 3 genin and a jonin, but he doesn't want to continue the mission now that he knows he's not getting paid after, so he's going to continue until he can find a way out. That means he and those he works with are still alive after. You can tell that's what he plans to do because he could have had the others in the trees attack us by surprise instead of leaving and completed the mission but didn't, which means that he's not interested in the mission anymore. But he also realizes he can't just hightail it out of here cause it'll ruin his reputation, which will make it impossible to get a job in this line of work in the future. That leaves only one choice. Wait until the most opportune moment to stop the mission. Wait, you said that you read the entry. What entry and how did you read it and why did you not tell us? Asuma questioned, both curious and angry. I'm afraid I can't answer the first 2 questions without betraying someone close to me. As for the last, I didn't want to not be on this mission because of unconfirmed info. After all, how was I to know that he would show up so soon? I stated with an innocent look before continuing. If I had revealed the info back in the village or too close to it, one of a few different scenarios would play out. If we were in the village, the mission would be cancelled or reassigned, or no one would believe me, forcing me to reveal the source of the info, which would cause questions I would be unable to answer truthfully due to reasons I cannot get into. If we were out of the village, you would have forced us back despite the fact that he may not have even showed up. The way I did things means you have no choice but to continue the mission, and if he was here then I could make it where he wouldn't be as much of a threat. You are very manipulative, you know that, he replied, seeing I was right. Only when it involves someone I don't have mutual trust with, I shot back, causing a hurt look to flash across his face. You don't trust me. I'm your sensei, you should trust me completely. I trust you to do what you were assigned to do, and to act in a way that'll make sure we don't bite off more than we can chew. On the other hand, you can't trust me as you haven't seen how well I can handle different level missions, and you don't want us on too high a level mission. I shot back again, causing him to look down again, while Shikamaru just watched the sky from his tree across the campsite, and Ino looked in thought from her position by the fire. Didn't I already go through this though? Yeah, he said dejectedly before adding. But I thought that it had been a long enough time for you to realize that you could trust me with anything. Well, that's stupid. I don't trust anyone that much, and I doubt any other ninja would trust anyone that much. It's just not a good idea. Some secrets can be shared with a select few, sure, but others need to be taken to the grave and some you need permission to give out. Do you not agree, Asuma-sensei? Well, yeah, I guess that does make sense, he said honestly. Anyway, the watch for the night will be Naruto, then Shikamaru, then Ino, and I'll finish up. Hi, sensei, we all replied before getting ready for the night. Skip to Naruto's watch after everyone fell asleep. I wondered how long it would take him to send someone my way, I said quietly, so as not to wake my companions, as a figure stepped from the trees and into the light of the moon, revealing what appeared to be a Kiri hunter Nin, but in actuality was a companion of Zabuza's. How did you figure out it was a trap? And why did you warn us? These are the questions he wants answered, the masked Nin stated. We will, anyone who has not been blinded by desperation could see that trap, and it was in both of our best interests to warn him. After all, how can I give him a job if he's dead? I say, well, looking at the Nin across from me in a dead serious kind of way.